Today on
Doomed!
Night of the Living John McAfee. Ladies and gentlemen, on today's episode of Doomed, we will be discussing John McAfee, the eccentric software developer. You all know him from the antivirus software that was in all your Windows computers all throughout the years. His recent death and how the far right and QAnon, well, there's a big Venn diagram overlapping circle there, but how the far right and QAnon are using McAfee to basically spread Q-esque conspiracies. They're basically turning him into a Q-like figure. And joining me on the show today to discuss this is, hold on, let me pull this up on the screen here. Always takes a second. Here we go. Is Kelly Weill, reporter at the Daily Beast. Hey, Kelly, thanks for joining me tonight.
Thanks for having me.
Now, before we jump in, I was telling you before the show that this also happened with Michael Hayden when he was on just 2 weeks ago. I apologize for it being so long since I invited you on. You are one of my favorite guests. There was a time period where I feel like you were coming on, every couple of months, once every couple of months, and I love your stuff. And then last year happened, and I just lost track of the last time some of my faves were on the show. So thanks for coming on after such a long period of time.
Yeah, totally. I mean, if there's ever been a time to drop out and log off, it's been the past year.
Right. I hope you've been well.
Yeah, likewise.
And I also want to mention that, I'm going to mention this again at the end, but you're going to have to, this drought is definitely ended because you're going to have to come back on soon because you got a book coming out early next year that I cannot wait to read about flat earthers. You were on this show one of the many times you were on to talk about your experience at one of those flat earth conventions, and you got to come back on and talk about the flat earth book when it comes out.
Oh yeah, I'm gonna be unavoidable with it. Absolutely.
Now let's talk about why you're here today, because you dropped a fantastic piece in the Daily Beast. And I was not familiar with everything going on here, but I do track a lot of the QAnon influencers, and I was aware that they are some of them are looking at John McAfee, and we're sort of digging into like using McAfee as some sort of possible plot for a new conspiracy theory throughout QAnon world. It was, fascinating to see, and we could talk. We're going to get more in depth in a second. But how did you first come across this?
Oh, I first came across this because I spend a totally unhealthy amount of time looking at far right telegrams. And so I saw this McAfee stuff sort of percolating for the past week or so, and hits a certain threshold, like 100,000 followers or so, and it's like, oh, goddamn, I've got to do something about this. But yeah, this is just McAfee's always been a figure of interest in some conspiracy circles, especially QAnon. Some people even tweeted at him like, "Are you Q?" And he gave them some breezy answers like, "No, but Q follows me," or whatever. So he's someone on their radar. And so it was like, it was one of those things where you see it pop up. It's like, I can't believe you're doing this, but I can totally believe that you're doing this. So, and hence the story.
Right. So let's jump back a little bit for people who don't know, who is John McAfee? And I got a full disclosure. We had to quickly, before this episode, look up exactly how to pronounce his last name, because I just discovered that I have been mispronouncing McAfee antivirus software and John McAfee wrong for my entire life. I've been saying McAfee, and it's McAfee. But let's go just a little bit, summary of who John McAfee is, because he's quite who he was, I should say, because he was quite the individual.
Yeah, I mean, just kind of a one-man Wikipedia page of notable incidents. He was, I think, in the 80s. He founded the McAfee antivirus software, and like you said, if you had a PC anytime, 90s through early aughts, I think it's even around today, you probably had McAfee antivirus. Um, John McAfee split from that company a long time ago, became one of its more notorious critics. He had, to put it gently, a very bombastic lifestyle. He was a hardcore libertarian, refused to pay taxes, fled to Belize, was accused of sexual assault and murder, never formally charged. Pretty much like copped to, paying women to, defecate in his mouth, and ran for Libertarian Party president, got into cryptocurrency. And then over the past couple of years was accused of something like $4 million in tax avoidance, avoided the feds on a yacht for a few years, got arrested, sent to Spain. And then he was found dead in his jail cell in Spain in late June, apparent suicide. So what more can you say about the man? Is big life.
I gotta say that is the best and quickest and most like concise summary I've ever heard of a John McAfee. That was incredible. But it is crazy because you could go through each one of those things that you mentioned. For me, two things that have stuck out for me for about McAfee actually. Interestingly enough, those are the two. Those are two that you did not mention, which just shows just how much this guy was going on with his life. Well, you mentioned the crypto thing. He had his own cryptocurrency scam going. But, this was a guy who had said that he guaranteed pretty much that Bitcoin would hit a certain price. I think it was like 100,000, he said, by the end of last year, I believe it was. And he promised that if it did not hit that price, he would chop off his penis and eat it. Well, I can tell you that I was one of those people who saved that tweet and eagerly awaited the end of the year when Bitcoin would obviously not hit that price. And I wrote a story about, hey, McAfee, it's time for you to chop your dick off. But obviously he did not do that. It wouldn't have put it past him if he did, actually, but he did not do that. And then another thing that sticks out to me about McAfee is that his longtime girlfriend, I think they did him getting married, but she apparently claims that she originally hooked up with him to spy on him for some sort of drug cabal. And she spied on him for years before finally just like coming clean to, like, she was supposed to poison him or something, and then finally just came clean to him because she ended up like actually falling in love with him or something like that. I don't know how true that story is. That's what she's run with. And McAfee did interviews where he said that he found out about it and how he felt bad for her but still loved her and they stayed together. So I don't know if that's a fairy tale story. I don't know.
I don't think there's like any comparison for that. I'm like trying to put that in like the narrative structure. I'm like, oh, it's a fairy tale. And it's just, that's completely of its own.
Right.
Good for them.
Right. And he's sort of like a character to have a laugh about, but at the same time, you mentioned the Belize incident, and that is something that, I mean, it was pretty clear. I mean, obviously he never was found guilty of anything, but he did flee the country, and I believe he stayed on like international waters for a while, and it was something he was trying to escape in terms of his neighbor being found dead and pretty much only McAfee having any sort of contact with the guy. I mean, it's all alleged at this point, but it seems pretty, I don't know what else could have happened. Let's put it that way.
Yeah, no, it's super sus. There's a documentary about it, and the documentarian basically comes right up to being like, this guy's a murderer, and it's like, you know what? I'm not the cops. I don't want to get any closer to this. And like, can you blame her? There's like no DNA testing labs in Belize. So, if you have a ton of money and everyone's scared of you, I mean, you can kind of, the allegations that he got away with it.
Right. And now let's actually jump into your piece because I do want to discuss a little bit about like how ridiculous the idea that McAfee would be one of these individuals that they are trying to hold him up as. But we'll get to that in a second. Let's now jump into the right. Is it from what you've seen? Is it mostly like the conspiratorial right in terms of like the usual QAnon suspects, or are white supremacist organizations actually jumping in on spreading McAfee stuff too? Who actually did you find pushing all this sort of McAfee conspiracy theories in the wake of him being found in a dead in a jail cell in Spain?
Um, it was the conspiracy community, especially the QAnon community, that really seized on this instantly. And we're kind of in an unfortunate, social media ecosystem right now where if anything big happens, like some people's just like gut reactions, like, okay, what's the alternate narrative here? It's just a very reactive conspiracy forming ecosystem, and some people are profiting off of that. Some people run their big telegrams where they get ego boosts from being the first person to make this claim. So right after McAfee's death, there were a whole bunch of people, especially on the right, because a lot of them had cottoned on to him from a conspiratorial standpoint or liked his libertarian cryptocurrency views, whatever. A lot of those folks immediately said, no way did he die by suicide? He must have gotten knocked off.
I had seen just like when Jeffrey Epstein was found dead in his jail cell. Really quickly after the McAfee news broke, I saw trending online, John McAfee didn't kill himself. The same exact slogan that was used for Epstein.
Yeah, it's like these paths have been primed already. There's just this ready-made narrative, and people can just like kind of cookie cutter. They're like, there's no reason to believe that there was anything amiss in John McAfee's death. And yet, because it's so easy to graft, the popular Epstein narrative onto it. And frankly, I think people are bored. This happened a year plus into a pandemic. It's like, screw it. Yeah, he's being knocked off for unclear reasons. It just, when you look at it, it doesn't make any sense. And it's a really easy, just sort of natural thing to allege.
Right. What do they think was the reason that someone would want him out of the picture? And I guess we could jump into this sort of thing now too, because to me, this is the weird thing about this. Like, I get the Jeffrey Epstein conspiracy theories because here's a guy who we know was extremely well connected and had worked his way through all different industries. Befriending some of the most powerful people in the world in order to extract mainly money from them. But, he was able to hold power over them by providing them, young women and girls in some instances. And that's a powerful thing to hold over people if you want to blackmail them, So he's able to really extract whatever he wants from a lot of very powerful people. He had all these connections. But with McAfee, there is no like little black book or whatever that it was that Epstein had. There is no flight logs. There is no like string of connections McAfee has made along the way. In fact, it looks like McAfee basically alienated anyone who could possibly have been befriended him, who would have been in power. Like, this is not a guy who was, well connected and would have some sort of like I guess it's possible that he, from the type of person he is, that he could have pissed off like some like drug ring or some illegal mafia-esque group, and that would have been who was out for him. But like, there's no like, there's Epstein had information that McAfee just doesn't seem to hold. So, it doesn't make any sense.
Right. And that's why I find the conspiracy theories just so like half-hearted with McAfee, because I mean, the reason nobody ever makes a conspiracy theory like, oh, it was the mafia. Like, I guess maybe some people do that with JFK, but the mafia doesn't really work as this like conspiratorial figure because they aren't seen as having an active role in your life. I guess unless you live in, I don't know, Sicily, and I don't know my mafia history. Um, but you need most conspiracy theories right now either allege something of the government or of, like an ethnic minority or something. That's typically how conspiracy theories work. Anyway, but with you're completely right that McAfee did not have any sort of like power situation. He purely, thrived on being an eccentric. He was popping off on Twitter all day. And so that's why the conspiracy theories about him don't really even seem to know what they're about. I've seen a number of them being like, oh, he was promoting cryptocurrency too hard, so the government had to kill him to stop him from speaking the cryptocurrency truth. It's like, if you tweet Bitcoin, you will get 700 people in your replies. It's like, I do not think the government is trying to stifle the cryptocurrency momentum. And
I mean, they did actually go after him for crypto, but not murder. They charged him with scamming people with a coin offering for some cryptocurrency he helped launch that basically he like pump and dumped or something like that. Like, it was a complete scam, and that's why they went after him with a fine. Like, he had to pay money because of they were victims and he did something illegal. They didn't. I mean, this was years ago too. There was no need for. There's no that doesn't even that conspiracy doesn't even make sense because there is a history of them just like fining him for it. Like, that's all that needed to be done.
Right. And then the other conspiracy theory that I've seen kind of offered around him, it makes even less sense because so prior to his death, there was this conspiracy theory. Somebody basically flew a drone around Jeffrey Epstein's island when it was being raided. And some people are saying, oh, that's probably John McAfee piloting the drone because John McAfee is known to, roam the seas in that area. And there was like some, circumstantial evidence on Twitter. And so their theory was like, he's the rogue rich guy fighting the pedophile elite. But the thing you have to remember about McAfee is that he is open about sleeping with 17-year-olds, and I'm not actually sure the bottom floor of that. And all he said on Twitter was like, well, yeah, but that was in countries where the age of consent is 16. So I don't know that John McAfee is really your anti-Epstein crusader there. And in fact, the YouTube account that he was allegedly running has updated subsequent to his death, so it's not him.
Right. Well, it could be, right? Because there are
heavy air quotes.
Right. It's like I mentioned at the beginning, Night of the Living John McAfee. Zombie John McAfee walks among us, apparently. When there's no more room in hell, John McAfee will walk the earth. Apparently, these telegrams, there's a number of telegrams that aren't only spreading conspiracy theories about his death. There are telegrams that you found with massive amounts of subscribers that claim to be John McAfee.
Yeah, so there is I found a trio of Telegram accounts purporting to be John McAfee. Two seem to be the instigators. One might just be copying, and that one has the fewest followers. But one started on July 18th, and then a larger one started on the 20th, which is interesting timing because they've worked asynchronously in a way that suggests to me that they are being coordinated with each other. But effectively, these two accounts combined now have more than 130,000 followers, and they claim to be John McAfee, still alive, and still, not still, for the first time ever, offering Q-like clues and strings of, just gobbledygook that might be interpreted as a clue to decode to bring down the deep state or something. And with it, he or the people behind it have given these like countdown clocks for the times that huge trenches of information are going to be released. Of course, every time that countdown clock, runs out, nothing gets released. But nevertheless, you've got people in these telegrams replies desperately trying to decode what is being said in there. And it's just an incredibly Q-like situation.
What do they think? I've seen this is now. This is what I've seen. I've seen this. I've seen this whole idea that there was supposed to be some sort of, like you mentioned, this countdown, and when the countdown clock ends, there's supposed to be this big drop of information from McAfee. I've seen everything from, like we mentioned earlier, Epstein-esque information. I've seen somehow he had proof related to Donald Trump and the election or something like that. Like what is supposedly in this big drop? I mean, what have you seen?
A lot of it implies that it is Epstein related, but I was just searching because sometimes there's these strings of characters that look like code, except if you learn to code, you actually know that it doesn't say anything. But I was just trying to see if they had been referenced anywhere, and I just looked up some of them, and they're ripped straight from old 8kun boards talking about, Hillary eating a child. So it's not even new Q. It's the old Q. It's the Q comment section, but given new life from the voice of a dead man.
And you reached out to McAfee's representatives, or I guess his lawyer or former lawyer, and what do they have to say about all this? Are they secretly in the pocket of secretly alive John McAfee?
I would be really surprised if his former lawyer was in the pocket, because one of the first posts in this telegram was actually going after the lawyer and saying that he's trying to make money off my name. Don't listen to him, invest in cryptocurrency or whatever. That's not exactly it, but it was going after this lawyer, right? And I reached out to the lawyer, who very politely said, John McAfee is dead. We have physically confirmed it. Nobody is authorized to run his telegram, So it's my guess is it's a nuisance for McAfee's team. You don't want to do PR for someone, beyond the grave.
Right. Now, now here's the thing. It's really simple I think, to just say, obviously, these Telegram channels that were created after his death, fake. YouTube videos that connected to a channel that he had no connection to, that are uploading after he died, obviously not his. But there was this moment shortly after I think it was on the day that he passed away, if not maybe a few days later, on his official Instagram page. I don't know if you remember this, but a giant, and I'm putting it on the screen now, Q was just a picture of a Q was uploaded to official John McAfee with the verified badge on Instagram and everything. Do you know what the deal with that was?
Yeah, so John had not been personally operating that account. When he was in jail, it would post pictures, kind of like throwback pictures. Oh, here's John, hanging out, being a good guy. He should be released from jail, free him. So it was clearly staff doing that. I am not in the heads of anyone who's going to post a Q on a dead guy's page. But it seemed like a troll. It just seemed like, a big troll. I don't know if it's something that he authorized before his death, or if it, a like-minded social media staffer or a rogue social media staffer did it. But it just also doesn't seem to connote anything. What is he saying? He's Q, Q is real. He managed to get the Q message out as he was being murdered. there's been no conspiracy theorizing over that, because it just doesn't even make sense as a non sequitur. So it's it reminds me of that journalist who just vandalized his company's Twitter account on the way out and quitting,
Oh, right.
Yeah. And it's just, that's what it reminds me of. But there's always been this kind of flirtation with Q stuff on McAfee's side, be that him personally or clearly someone running his social media.
Right. Now, it does seem like obviously McAfee was. I mean, to me, it always was. I can't. I mean, I guess it should be no surprise that people looking for conspiracy theory and everywhere and everything would see something here. But it always came off like McAfee was so obviously just like getting a rise out of people and trolling. Like, again, like Jeffrey Epstein didn't need to get on Twitter and rile people up. Like, and then with QAnon, like Q basically would just leave a drop and then just not give a shit. Like, just well, we can say who is behind Q or not, who we think is, and he's very. If it is him, he's certainly not that type of person anymore. He definitely revels in the attention. But when he was just secretly Q, it was just drop a bit of information, disappear for a couple of weeks. Whereas McAfee was always just like looking for attention. Just look at me, I'm Q. Maybe, who knows? Like, it seems so trollish. The idea that he would secretly actually have any information is just so beyond me. It's incredible.
Yeah, no, McAfee was just, he was a troll. I mean, I say that in like actually kind of a value neutral way. Like, he just loved attention. And that's why you got these crazy, he was like kind of a journalist's dream for a while. There were all these long form pieces of like, oh, we embedded with John McAfee for 6 months. We made a documentary about him, because he would just give and give and give, just say crazy stuff to rile people up. I think he was like 75 at his death. And when he was free, he was, posing shirtless and look at my yacht. And he just, he's a poster. Live by the post, die by the post. And that's not someone giving away little snippets of classified military intelligence. Like, if John McAfee had that, he'd probably just, would drop it on his main Twitter page if he felt like it. He's not the archetype of the conspiracy mastermind. He's a showman.
Right. And people in the YouTube chat are yelling at me just to say his name, just say who's Q. Don't. I mean, we can get to him now. Actually, I'm obviously I'm obviously not 100% sold. I do believe it's probably likely him, but until that's completely set in stone, I continue to say he's likely, but who knows? He certainly wasn't the first Q. That's confirmed, because there was definitely more than one Q. He wasn't the one posting on 4chan. And the person is Ron Watkins I'm talking about, and he comes up in your story because he doesn't seem like he's he doesn't seem like he's too thrilled about any of these QAnon influencers getting big off of what he allegedly built, but he doesn't seem too happy about this whole McAfee thing, does he?
Yeah, so he was Ron Watkins was pretty aware of the McAfee stuff early, and that doesn't surprise me. That doesn't implicate him to me, because if you're ultra plugged into the Q space, you probably saw this percolating over the past week or so. But he started by saying, I see a lot of you sharing this kind of thing, kind of weird, I'm keeping an eye on it. And then he went saying this kind of looks like a scam, might be trying to sell cryptocurrency. And then when the information drops never materialized, he was really like just being like, nope, false prophet, this guy doesn't have the goods, just ignore it. Which, is interesting, because Ron, even under his own name, does kind of Q-ish stuff. Talks about himself as, having the answers, or positions himself as like kind of facilitating these investigations or whatever. So whether or not he's Q, there is a bit of a turf war, right? And having some dead guy suddenly get, more than 100,000 followers on a channel, that's competition.
Right. He just gets so angry at every. He was going after. I wrote a piece last week about. He was going after Michael Flynn Watkins. And for people who don't know, Ron Watkins is the former administrator of 8kun, formerly 8chan. He is the son of Jim Watkins, who owns 8kun. And he was in that one of the major figures in that QAnon documentary on HBO. And the director of the documentary pretty much almost got him to the point where he admitted to being Q. And what frustrated me so much, because that documentary was good, what frustrated me so much was, why did he just end it like, I would have been like nonstop, like, but just tell me your cue, right? Like, just say it, God damn it, just say it. Like,
Oh my
I would have
God.
been so
I
bothered
don't,
by just
yeah,
laughing
no,
with
I
him.
don't,
Yeah.
I don't think anyone has the balls to like actually like take credit for it, right? Because there's so much genuinely like unspeakable stuff that came out of the QAnon theory. Like people won't be like, I'm not Q, wink, you know. But like no one actually permanently wants their name attached to it. I get it.
Right. I love when the election ended and Q wrapped up. Remember, everyone, Q has not posted since December of 2020. Um, Watkins posted this series of tweets where he was just honestly, just quite seriously, I'm not even like making this up. This isn't verbatim, but this is legitimately what he said. He was like, QAnon was basically the friends we made along the way. It was just incredible. He was like, think of all the relationships we've made over these conspiracy theories over the years. Let's hold those in our hearts. And it's like, it's like this is a joke. This can't even. Are you being serious?
Yeah, I mean, hold on to those relationships because you probably torpedoed all your other relationships. Like, I shouldn't joke about it, but it's like, honest to God, one of the most alienating things you can do is get involved in one of these theories.
Right. Now, he went after Michael Flynn last week, and it was, because Michael Flynn has ties to that Israeli-based spyware firm
Oh,
that
yeah,
created
NSO.
Pegasus. Yeah, NSO Group, right? And he was posting on Telegram about Michael Flynn. He was posting like the documents of his connections and like how much he got paid and what did Michael Flynn know. And then he was like he was waiting hours and then coming back and being like, Michael Flynn really needs to put out a statement. If I was Michael Flynn, I'd put out a statement and tell everyone what I knew. It was incredible because he a lot of these QAnon followers probably this, hilariously enough, don't read too much into what Ron Watkins is saying. But what he's literally saying without saying it is, I'm calling Michael Flynn out because he's got ties to this organization. And I don't know whether he believes that Flynn is in on whatever he thinks Flynn's in on it or what, or if it's just a power move to, diminish Flynn's role within QAnon and get more power for himself. But Ron Watkins trying something there.
Yeah, I mean, it's all such a metagame at this point because there's no like active queue. So it's a weird power void. People are, I think, calling yourself explicitly a Q follower. Well, I was just watching some current Q videos today, but in general, like people are less calling themselves Q followers now. Like, oh no, I'm about election integrity. I'm about, medical freedom. So everyone's kind of like trying to see where the momentum is and like see where they can divert it to their own ends. And if that means, stabbing a buddy in the back on the way, it's
Right.
No honor among QAnoners.
Right. They can't help themselves though with that, throwing that hashtag where we go one, we go all in their like Twitter bio or wherever they are. They're still on Twitter for anyone wondering, and you can find them on Facebook. Just because they're more open on like Getter and Parler and Gab doesn't mean they're not still on those major social networks. Now, where do you think this whole McAfee thing is going? Because obviously Telegram is the big right-wing QAnon conspiracy theory. I mean, all these different far-right groups and movements are pretty much finding their home on Telegram, and you have like this huge QAnon channel with Ghost Ezra that's basically getting as anti-Semitic as it gets on there. In terms
Also, flat Earth.
Oh yeah. Oh
Yeah,
well.
he's into flat Earth.
Does
Buy
Ghost
the book.
Ezra make it
Anyway.
into your book?
No, this is I actually filed my book last September and updated a little bit contemporaneously, but no, the flat Earth heel turn did not come until after I filed.
Ghost Ezra's, maybe you got to do a part 2 for Ghost Ezra. Yeah. But so where do you see, are these, you think these, because there are also still like big Telegram channels that I follow that are basically like playing up the JFK thing still, where JFK Jr. is still alive and he's On Telegram, I mean. Where do you see the McAfee thing going with what you've seen so far?
The McAfee thing is so interesting to me because it's I don't know that it's great long-term branding. I mean, I'm not going to try and invoke people being the most reasonable here, but when you're posing as a dead man, and especially when you're a dead man who's offering these countdown timers for document dumps, you kind of got to put up or shut up, right? And the document dumps haven't come through, and you can't pose as this dead guy forever when, like, even his widow is like, yeah, I've seen his corpse, you know? So I don't know. I think the McAfee telegrams are interesting in that they signal this willingness to, this interest in finding a new prophet, somebody who can offer new exclusive documents or, new insight into the deep state or what have you. And McAfee is just a recognizable name. So I don't know how long this person or people can pose specifically as him without riffing on it a bit. But I think it's the shape of things to come with QAnon, and that, we're going to see more influencers in this space, and they are just looking for ways to use the format of QAnon to their own ends, and beats me what their ends are right now.
Right. It's too bad that they already claim that Vincent Fusca is JFK Jr., the guy who everyone, the guy who looks nothing like JFK Jr., who they all claim is JFK Jr., because he actually looks more like McAfee. They could have.
He does. Oh.
Maybe. I'm going to put this out there for any QAnon believers. Maybe you've all been fooled, and somehow there's some sort of rift in the space-time continuum, and there were two John McAfees living at once. And then McAfee dies, and then Vinny Fusca is somehow also that John McAfee. I don't even know, but you guys figure it out. That's not my. That's not my forte.
I think you should leave like the doubles, triples, cars, doubles. John. Anyway, you can tell I was up until 2:30 editing my book last night.
Let's, if you don't mind, you want to give us a quick little. What do you got? Anything interesting you could tease from your book?
Oh, yeah.
Not to put you on the spot if you can't. I don't want it. You can just say you can't.
No, totally. Not at all. So my book is really the history of flat Earth, which people don't realize, but it has a pretty defined point. Starting in the 1840s, actually, in an English socialist commune. I'm not sure how interested everybody else is in that, but I absolutely love it. Just, basically the denizens of Twitter put back, a pig farm, and that's where flat Earth came from. But and taking it through the modern day, and there are a lot of overlaps I think people don't realize that flat Earth has with contemporary events. A lot of flat earthers involved in precisely why the pandemic is so ridiculous right now. We meet a friend of mine who's a flat earther who got himself blown up in a rocket. Can't make a joke about that. It was actually really distressing and remains so to me. But there's laughs on the way. It's I hope people buy it and I hope people like it.
Well, you're gonna have to come back on this show, like I mentioned, to talk about that book. It's
I'll workshop my pitch before then.
2/22/22. That's a genius marketing date, by the way. February 22nd, 2022. I never remember when books come out, and somehow here I am, never forgetting when yours will come out.
That's my marketing strategy. I'm gonna meme the hell out of it. 2/22/22.
That's a smart idea. In the YouTube chat, Robot Cat with the obvious conspiracy theory. I thought too much into it. Silly me. Vinny Fusca died in place of McAfee.
Oh wow!
There we go.
No, that totally makes. Of course, it's that was the noble way to go. Is like the mini Christ of McAfee lore. What am I talking about?
Now the question is though. when this YouTube commenter says Vinny died in place of McAfee, do they actually mean that JFK Jr., who has been secretly alive all these years, waiting for the moment to become Trump's vice presidential pick, actually sacrificed himself for John McAfee?
Well, that's what they say. Trust the plan, right? Trust the plan. It's all being taken care of. You just kick back, and it's fine. It's fine. There's no worries. Goodness, that seems like a downgrade from vice president. But what do I know?
Right. Who knows what the plan is for McAfee? Right. Maybe he's going to be like what did they call Trump in the very beginning? A lot of those alt-right
God
people.
Emperor, right?
Yes. Maybe Trump wasn't. Never ascended to the God Emperor status. He was a disappointment in some ways to them. So maybe McAfee is, JFK Jr., who was supposed to be Trump's VP, ended up sacrificing himself for an even greater good, which was
McAfee's failed libertarian presidential bid. It's finally coming back.
Yeah, and that was where it all went wrong, right? Oh man, this it's incredible to think everything that he was involved with. Rest in peace, John McAfee. I guess I don't know. Kelly Weill of the Daily Beast, thank you so much for joining me tonight. Always a pleasure to have you on this show. Really looking forward to your book coming out. Looking forward to having you on this show. We'll never go this long again without having Kelly Weill on this show again.
And that's a threat. Thanks, Matt.
Have a great night, Kelly. Take care.
Bye.
Oh, wait, is there anything you want to promote really quick? Obviously your book, but is there anything you wanted to... I lost there. Okay, no big deal. I'm letting her know. No biggie. At Kelly Weill on Twitter. I'll tell you that'll be the big promotion for... I just dropped your Twitter handle and told people to check there for any... thing. Boop. All right, ladies and gentlemen. Let's go to the second half of the show. Before we do that, patreon.com/MattBinder. First of all, we have a lot of show left. Got some really good videos, some things I want to rant about. I'll open up the call systems for a little bit. I'm not going to go like we did last week, which was over 4 hours. And that was a week where I did 2 live streams. Now, really quick, I was supposed to do 2 live streams this week too. But one of those live streams was supposed to be a debate that I've been told was going to happen with the Convo Couch people, another YouTube show who has some disagreements with me about various different things. Some scheduling conflicts. Hopefully we'll do that next week. I'll keep you guys updated. I'll do another stream next week, even if that doesn't end up happening. For whatever reason. I hope it does. It should. But follow me at Matt Binder on Twitter. YouTube.com/MattBinder. Subscribe to the channel. I'll update you guys there to let you guys know what's going on with that. But as always, next Thursday we'll do a show, as we always do. I'm just telling you to follow me if you want to keep tabs on any of the bonus stuff that might happen that's not part of the usual schedule. Now back to the Patreon. Patreon.com/MattBinder. If you could afford to do so, please, please, please become a subscriber. We are close to 250 patrons. You all know I'm a terrible self-promoter. I rarely ever promote the Patreon off of outside of literally just a minute or so on this show every week. That's my fault. I'm terrible at it. But I'm extremely excited that I've been able to provide you guys with material that makes so many of you want to pay me to continue to do it. Because really, I can't do this show without my patrons. If you could get me to 50, I think we're at like 243 now. That would be awesome to do like in the next week or so. I'm not going to say by the end of the show because who knows if that'll happen. I don't want to give it that short of a time frame. But patreon.com/MattBinder. I want to thank all the people who joined the Patreon channel. The Patreon from last week. Let me name drop them right now. Here we go. Where's last week? Okay. Anthony D, Soy B, Chase B, Helen, Carl, Jason AFC, Graham, and Jonathan A. Thank you so much for becoming patrons and supporting the show. Let me make sure. Oh, we had someone up their Patreon too. User Kiwi, thank you so much. Also, we had some people rejoin, which for some reason didn't show up on that other page. Peasant Chick, thank you so much for supporting the show by re-upping your Patreon. Really, I can't thank you guys enough. If you would like to give a one-off donation, not recurring, you could do so in the YouTube channel right now by dropping a super chat, youtube.com/MattBinder. How else can you support this show? I don't even know anymore. Oh, doomedcast.com for the podcast version of the show if you prefer listening on the go or just, listening to the audio while you're doing other things in the house. You could also support this show by, what else can you do? I got no idea anymore. Oh, ratethispodcast.com/doomed. Go there, please. Leave an iTunes review. Leave a Apple Podcast now. Leave a review wherever you can. There's a bunch of places you can leave podcast reviews on on that link. Let me actually, where's my phone? Here it is. Let me read a review right now. Let me pull up a podcast review on Apple Podcasts, for example. I love reading reviews because I think they are, people have fun with it. And you too could have fun with it. Let's go with, here we go. Here's one. Serious issues without the stuffing. Oh wait, I read this one previously. Geez. I've read a few of these. Here's one. From Jim. Relatable and inquisitive. Matt has such a good energy, and it's a pleasure to listen to this show. He brings in great guests and is one of the few progressive news commentators willing to wade into the right-wing muck to meet them where they are. More importantly, he's the kind of guy you'd want to get a beer with to talk about all this craziness in the world. Oh, look at that. I was hit with a bunch of negative reviews from anti-maskers. Interesting. I got into a little online spat with a bunch of anti-maskers, and they were mentioning the show. And it looks like they destroyed my perfect 5 out of 5 star rating on Apple Podcasts. So more of a reason for you guys to jump on there and drop a rating, please. Get me back to that 5 out of 5. Amazing. They did that to me. ratethispodcast.com/doomed. All right, folks, let's go to the second half of the show. Oh, we got a few patron, what is it, 1 or 2? Let me see. I want to name drop a patron right now who just joined. Frantifa Soldiers, thank you so much for joining the Patreon right now. You just caught me right in time for me to name drop you during this show. I'll name drop you again next week. Just that's you get 2 if you join during the show. All right, folks. I'm opening up the Skype handle, Doomed Live. Go there to call into the show. Got lots of interesting clips and stories to discuss. And I will see you all. If you're not watching on the live stream and you're not a patron, this is where we say goodbye. If you are on the live stream or you're a Patreon, this is where you wait a minute while I grab a refill of my soda and you get even more content. But for all you freebie listeners, see you all next time on Doomed. All right, we are back. I needed an energy drink today. I had another energy drink. I had the Super Brain Performance last week. This week I had the Superhuman Performance. Oh, this can is not green screen friendly. Look at that. It says Superhuman Performance. I'm not promoting anything. This is just on. I didn't even pay for this. There was an event at my local grocery store, and they basically were giving these out. And I, of course, am going to grab free energy drinks. Are you kidding me? Oh, I forgot to log into the Skype channel. Give me 1 second. Here we go. Again, that's Doomed Live. I think if you, I think it comes up Doomed Live _1. I hate that. You can't change that. I don't think on Skype. I didn't register it like that. I just registered Doomed Live, and they added that annoying _1. I'm guessing because there was already a Doomed Live. I don't know what that would be for, but here we go. I'm logged in. So just open up Skype, Doomed Live. I'll get you right on. Let me read some super chats. Renee, can you play McAfee on J.L. Peterson? Amazing. I didn't see that. Warren from Toronto with a super chat. Salute to Binder. Thank you, Warren from Toronto. Samantha Sider with a super chat. McAfee still alive, along with Elvis, JFK, and JFK Jr. Right? Of course. Drop a like on this video, by the way. Are the Twitch streamers coming through? Someone said they are. I think it was my pop said he's not seeing the Twitch people in the chat. Is that happening? Are there no Twitch people coming through? Oh, man. No, I see some Twitch people. They're just not very active in there. Say hello, Twitch viewers. Dank says, I guess the stream isn't poggers enough for comments. All right, let's go to this story here. Let me set up no callers yet. That's fine. It's so weird how, like, some weeks it's nonstop call after call. That's why I went 4 hours plus last week. And then here we got people just all quiet on the Western Front today. Let me... Where is Give me a second. Something's going wrong here. Oh, this is from last week. This is not the video. That's not the video I want. Oh, here it is. Okay. It's going to be a bit of a spoiler alert to pull this up right now, but all right, this is the video I want up. All right, I'll come back to it in a second. So, last week on this program, I did an episode on the Olympics. And I spoke to an activist with the No Olympics LA organization, and we discussed how the Olympics leaves basically their host city in shambles. From displaced people to massive empty arenas that become dilapidated and don't get any use. Various other things as well. You should go back and listen to that episode. But anyway, the athletes in the Olympics really, can't really blame them for that. They're just, and we'll discuss actually just how normal a lot of those athletes are, just like everyday people. We'll get into that in a second, but first I want to talk about this. So this past week, right-wing pundits have been over the top here with Simone. I don't know, over the top. What am I talking about? Let me let me reset. I should take another sip of energy drink, shouldn't I? So this past week, right-wing pundits have been outraged over the fact that Simone Biles, probably the greatest gymnast in the world, at least today, bowed out of the team competition in Tokyo while Team USA was going for gold. And she basically told her coach that she was not in the right headspace to continue after a poor showing on the balance beams. And that's something that, and I've been reading, that's something that happens to a lot of gymnasts, actually. Not even, a lot of people are discussing the mental health aspect and how important it is for people to basically take care of themselves. And that's obviously one aspect of this, but also specifically for what she does. There were former gymnasts who were previously at the Olympics coming out and talking about how there are actual things that a lot of gymnasts go through where they become lost in the air. It's called twisties, that they call it, and they become disoriented. And it could take them quite some time, and actually not even just like getting in the right headspace, like after like just going like to the back and just just thinking it through for a bit and maybe throwing water on themselves and getting a drink. No, it's like something that they could actually take lots of practice to get over, where they just become disoriented. And it seems like whatever it may be, the pressure, the fact that the judges score Simone Biles differently because she's so talented and don't give her the proper points for some of the extremely hard maneuvers that only she can do. Whatever it is, she just wasn't in the right space, and she told her teammates after a poor showing, "I'm out." This really pissed off the right wing. They were just complaining nonstop, like they ever cared about gymnastics to begin with, but whatever. But one person specifically stuck out to me, and that was Charlie Kirk, the head of Turning Point USA. He went on his podcast radio show, and he just went on and on without really knowing anything about the situation. Let's take a listen to Charlie Kirk go batshit crazy over Simone Biles, basically saying she needs to step away from the team competition at the Olympics.
So Simone Biles, who's obviously a very talented gymnast, decided not to compete in the gold medal competition. Now, she probably could have just competed and just kind of checked the boxes and they would have got a gold medal. Simone Biles says, "This Olympic Games, I want..."
Whoa. See, here's the thing. That's not accurate. That's not accurate. Because if you knew anything about what was going on, you would actually know that Simone Biles did really poorly on the balance beams. In fact, her score was so low because she got out of she wasn't focused, and she lost her, she was going through whatever it is that she was going through and wasn't in the right headspace. She actually did really bad. In fact, it was her score that brought the whole team's score down. And don't believe me, here is a sports writer he's a Yahoo Sports columnist who also is an executive producer on an Aaron Hernandez Netflix documentary, who also wrote some best-selling books like Epic Athletes, a series for young readers. Let me pull up his tweet here. Dan Wetzel says on Simone quitting on her team, she actually saved it. Her vault scored a 13.766. So I'm sorry, I was wrong about what specific gymnastics spot she did poorly on. But her vault scored a 13.766. Brutally low. It was 0.534 below her teammates and a zero point 0.7 below the lowest Russian score. Russia took a commanding 1.067 lead because of it. U.S. can't win silver if she's scoring like that. I realized this from the very beginning. Like, it was so weird to me that anyone would not realize why she was doing it. Like, just the idea that she just did it selfishly. Let's continue to show just how little these guys understood what was going on.
I wanted to be for myself when I came in, and I felt like I was still doing it for other people, as she cried after the team event on Tuesday. So that just, it like hurts my heart, because doing what I love has been kind of taken away from me to please other people. Yeah, that's the point, Simone Biles. You're representing your nation, you're selfish sociopath. You kidding me?
Whoa, buddy. I mean, are you like yourself a gymnast or something? Like, are you like, I'm confused what your deal is here. Like, why are you so passionate about this? This is bizarre.
Today it's like, you know what? I'm not going to do something stupid and get hurt. It's just not worth it. Especially when you have like 3 amazing athletes that can step up to the plate and do it. So you know who has the gold medal? Russia. I have to go look at these 4'11" Russian Olympians chewing on their gold medals, smirking at the Americans. I'm not okay with that. But honestly, that's where we're headed. We are raising a generation of weak people like Simone Biles. Again, if you want to be, if she got all these mental health problems, don't show up. She's an incredible athlete. Of course she's an incredible athlete. I'm not saying, I just said she's probably the greatest gymnast of all time. She's also very selfish. She's immature, and she is a shame to the country. She's totally a sociopath. Of course she's a sociopath. Andrew said she's not a sociopath. What kind of person skips the gold medal match? Who does that? It's a shame.
Someone who actually wants her team to win. Like, this is the thing. Like, you see this with a lot of right-wing pundits, and we'll get to a few of the other examples in a minute for something else I want to point out. She literally made the decision to drop out so her team could win. She realized she wasn't in the right. Oh, aside from the fact that she could have actually, like, this isn't like any other sport. Like, this isn't like, oh, I'm not in it, and I could twist, I could maybe I could not pay attention and like twist my ankle or something. If I'm like basketball or like, I'm not in the right headspace for baseball. Maybe I could, not throw the ball to the best of my ability. She could literally become quadriplegic in this sport. It's probably, in my estimation, easily one of the most dangerous sports. One wrong move, she lands on her neck and becomes paralyzed. So aside from that fact, she dropped out so her team could win.
To the nation. You just gave a gift to the Russians. Don't show up. If you're not ready for the big time, we got thousands of young female gymnasts that would love to take the place. Thousands. Simone Biles just showed the rest of the nation that when things get tough, you shatter into a million pieces.
First of all, again, he doesn't know what he's talking about. When Simone Biles decided not to continue on for the rest of that match, what happens is the alternate, one of those other great gymnasts Charlie Kirk was just talking about who could have been at the Olympics, they actually are there. And that's what they're there for. So they actually come in, like, it doesn't become like a 3-on-4 handicap match. Like, this isn't the WWE. It doesn't become a 3-on-4 handicap match when Simone Biles drops out. One of the alternates, one of those other talented gymnasts Charlie Kirk was mentioning, comes in and takes her place. And that's what happened. And in fact, that gymnast who took Simone Biles' place did a great job on the floor routine. I think that's what she did. It was either the floor or the beam. I can't remember which. But the point is, she came in and she killed it. And she helped bring up that score, which again was brought down because Simone Biles was performing badly that day. She brought that score up and actually helped the U.S. clinch the silver medal. So, to recap, because Charlie Kirk does not understand what's going on. As you can see, I'm not really a gymnastics person. I'm getting a few facts about what exactly the routine they were doing was wrong. But I read about what happened, and it really actually just really confirmed what I thought to begin with, and that was Simone Biles was taking one for the team and bowing out because she realized something was wrong and she wasn't performing to her top abilities. So she wanted her team to win. So to recap, Simone Biles performs poorly. She realizes this, decides I can't snap out of it. I'm not in the right headspace. Tells her team this. The equivalent of a coach pulling out like the pitcher in a game of baseball when he's throwing balls and he's throwing bad pitches. You pull him out for the better of the team and you put a better pitcher in who's going to perform better. So she makes that call, says, I can't do it. They pull her out, put an alternate in who kills it and helps make up for Simone Biles' poor performance. And it's not going to be possible at this point to get that gold medal, but it helps Team USA grab the silver. This is just like ridiculous, truly ridiculous. And to top it all off, to really, make you all understand how Charlie Kirk is not the person to be talking about this. The guy knocking one of the greatest gymnasts probably of all time, but certainly now, recently cut a infomercial saying all this.
About a year ago, I could barely walk down the street or sit in a chair for more than 10 minutes without horrible pain. And now look at me. I'm here to tell you about Relief Factor, the 100% drug-free supplement that's helping tens of thousands of people, young and old, to get out and stay out of pain.
How old is Charlie Kirk? He's 27 years old, and he's cutting boomer-esque pain relief ads, like things that you need for pain relief that you need when you're like old and you have arthritis and things like that. And he's knocking an athlete of Simone Biles' caliber for being mature enough to realize, damn, I'm not performing well. I'll drop out. She probably knew the shit she was going to get from people like Charlie Kirk. But who cares about that? She cared about her team. And obviously herself. Her health. But she made the right call, obviously. Unbelievable. And like I was saying before, this wasn't something that was only Charlie Kirk. Right-wing pundits were going apeshit over this. You had... Let me pull this one up. You had... Where is this? Okay, so you had Matt Walsh of the Daily Wire. We now have decorated Olympic athletes quitting in the middle of the competition because they're sad. What an absolute embarrassment, but in some ways, an appropriate representation of a country that has gone soft. Again, an appropriate representation, actually, of what should make this country great. People caring about others and doing a selfless act for the greater good, which is what Simone Biles did to make sure her team would medal. And then you had another Matt Walsh tweet. So if Tom Brady left the game in the third quarter of the Super Bowl because he was frustrated and wasn't having fun, you all would defend it as a brave decision? Yeah, right. Can you people be honest for once in your lives? It's a double standard and you know it. Just admit it. I mean, if Tom Brady was performing badly, like he was just not, like every pass he was throwing was getting intercepted, you got to believe that the coach would make a call to take him out, right? And this I thought was funny. I grabbed this comment from one of Matt Walsh's supporters. My wife said the alternates were actually outperforming Biles. No wonder she is sad. Like he's using that to rag on her, to knock her, without realizing that that's exactly the reason why she dropped out. Because she was performing badly, and she knew the alternates would perform better. So, smart person who cares about Team USA winning says, I'm going to bow out because I can't get it right. Something's wrong here. I will let one of my teammates take my place. And in doing so, they will perform better and help us medal. And then here we have Michael Tracy. He quote tweets Sunisa Lee, who actually just won the gold medal for Team USA in the women's all-around gymnastics competition, which was after this team competition. Michael Tracy says, I mean, who ultimately cares about the Olympics? Whole thing's kind of a scam, right? Who cares about the Olympics? Here I am, Michael Tracy. I will now talk about it nonstop, right? Who cares? But here I go pontificating on it. But to the extent that people do care, Olympic athletes are now insisting they don't owe their country anything. Winners in our hearts, quoting something Sunisa Lee said. WTF, did Japan spike the water over there or something? Isn't the whole point of the Olympics that you're representing your country and thus owe the greatest possible effort to achieve victory? Or did they change that up this year due to COVID or whatever? Now, this one really stuck with me. And this is why I wanted to bring this up even and continue after that Charlie Kirk video I played in another segment. The idea that the Olympians are there to represent Team USA because they owe their country something, which is what Michael Tracy said. And I tweeted this out, and people who didn't agree with Michael Tracy were shocked about this. They didn't know this. The U.S., first of all, the Olympics, the whole purpose is to bring people together from all across the world to show how we could all unite in a game, in a friendly competition. That's really the point of the Olympics. It's what they say, at least. Obviously, we know that the point of the Olympics is to make massive amounts of money by spurring real estate development that will then lead to, spark bidding wars from various cities all across the country, the world, I should say. There's lots of reasons, but that's the stated purpose. But the idea that the athletes owe something to their country, and I think that comes from this belief that the U.S. government is spending money to send athletes there to represent us. And I think that's what a lot of people think, judging by even what people who didn't agree with Michael Tracy were saying to my tweet. Here's something a lot of people may not know. The United States of America is one of the only countries that does not pay their Olympic athletes. They do not fund their Olympic athletes. The United States of America does not have a Ministry of Sports where we, put money aside to make sure that people who are of a certain athletic caliber can support and sustain themselves while they train to represent this country in the Olympics. We do not pay Olympic athletes. There's no funding, government funding for them. There are a series of nonprofit organizations who basically act as the governing body of what is essentially the U.S. Olympics and Paralympics Committee. And they make the majority of their money from organizations and companies and sponsors who pay for it. That's why you see all these athletes with their sponsors. And this is only the big athletes. Sure, of course, there's the Michael Phelps of the world. I'm sure Simone Biles is doing well for herself. There's these big names who certainly make millions of dollars. But they're not what usually is the case. They're the exception to the rule. Most United States Olympic athletes are just like you and me. They are struggling to get by. And it was surprising to me that not many people knew this. I've known about this for many years, and it's been out there for many years. I pulled up a piece from 2018 in The Conversation that basically went through just a few like salaries for Olympians. Here's just a few examples. The average U.S. Olympian simply does not live in the highest level of the financial stratosphere. According to the Track and Field Athletic Association, there's a steep pyramid of income opportunities for track and field athletes. Only a select few are able to earn a very good living. 50% of track athletes who rank in the top 10 in the U.S. earn less than $15,000 annually from the sport. USA Swimming reportedly provides approximately $3,000 to national team members of its top 16 ranked athletes. There was a story. The U.S. gold medal winner in gymnastics, Gabby Douglas, who won in 2012 at the Olympic Games in London. In order to fund her daughter's Olympic training to get her to that point, her mother actually had to file for bankruptcy to afford Gabby Douglas's training. She basically had to pay because they have to live basically where they're training. And in order to pay for Gabby Douglas's training, which involved living away from home for 2 years, she had to basically file for bankruptcy. It's just incredible. Here is another piece that I came across. Let me pull this up. According to USA Today, weightlifters can earn approximately $750 to $4,000 annually. Olympic wrestlers are giving a stipend, of $1,000 a month for top-ranked athletes, $600 for second, and $300 for third-ranked. I mean, it's incredible. It's incredible. And by the way, when you win medals in the Olympics, you do get a payday. And you're thinking, oh, this must be, hundreds of thousands of dollars, if not millions or something. No. The United States Olympic and Paralympic Committee pays $37,500 to gold medalists. It's stunning. It's stunning. And this one really stuck out to me. According to the Washington Post, and this is from a 2018 piece, two-time Olympic javelin thrower Cyrus Hostetler said the most he ever earned in a year from his sport is $3,000. Like, these are people who basically struggle and live in poverty. Again, aside from the ones who hit it big. But again, think about, like, for the most part, like, taekwondo, judo, javelin, like this Olympian, like skeet shooting and all these lesser known sports. This is what they want to do. This is their dream, just to become, childhood dream for a lot of them, to win an Olympic gold medal or just compete in the Olympics. And they live in poverty or struggle paycheck to paycheck just to be able to fund this dream and goal they have. And for a lot of them, again, their sport's never going to make, this is not like, again, like gymnastics or anything. If they win a gold medal, even one of those sports, doesn't necessarily mean they're going to be, big superstars. So they really don't owe the U.S. anything. They did it pretty much with the help of family, friends, and donors. I'm not a big advocate for, rugged individualism. And obviously they got a lot of help to get there. But in terms of like the U.S. government helping them, hell, maybe a lot of them are probably on food stamps, actually. So maybe the U.S. government helped them in that way. But in terms of direct funding to represent the U.S. in the Olympics, no, they get nothing. So really, they don't owe anyone. They don't owe their country, at the very least, I should say. Unbelievable, these guys. Ugh. I mean, obviously, yes. There are better things the U.S. government could put their money towards. But we put our money towards a lot of wasteful things. Subsidies to billion-dollar corporations, the military-industrial complex. I would much prefer taking some of that wasted money. And if we're not going to put it into healthcare for all citizens and a universal basic income or other social safety net or welfare programs, then you know what? I would prefer it going to helping a few athletes who want to represent the country in the Olympics, to making sure they don't live in poverty. They're not looking to get rich, obviously. Much rather give them 50, 60K, 65K a year so they could do their training than funnel billions of dollars to like Jeff Bezos or Elon Musk so they could open Amazon headquarters 2.0 or, have a billionaire joyride at the edge of space. A few people tried to call in actually during my my segments there. Let me say call back in. Is it not called skeet shooting? It is called skeet shooting. Shooting skeet. That's what it's called. What did I say? I said skeet shoot. No, it's also skeet shooting. It says on Wiki. Looks like both are acceptable. Oh, I just got logged out of this thing I need. Give me 1 second to log back in. Oh, we got another patron. Thank you, Ben, for becoming a Patreon. I really appreciate it. Really appreciate it. Hey, what's your name? Where are you calling from?
Hey, I can't hear you, Matt.
Oh, can you hear
Can you
me?
hear me? I can't hear you.
I can hear you. Can you hear me now? Hello? Try calling
Sorry,
back.
I can't hear you, Matt.
Try calling back in. Try calling back in. Try calling back in. Let's try this again. I'm going to make sure my preferences are right too here. Check. All right, this should work. Try calling back in now. Here, I'll try calling you back. Let's see if this works. Hello?
Hello.
Hey.
Oh, Matt, can you hear me?
I can hear you. You hear me?
Yeah. Hi, this is Warren from Toronto.
Hey, Warren from Toronto. What would you like to talk about?
Yeah. So first, I just wanted to just quickly touch on your points on the Olympics. I think you bring up a good point right now, and I was so surprised as a Canadian to just hear that the U.S. federal government does not give funding for athletes, right? Like in the Philippines, we just got our first gold medal ever. And I'd always talk about that in my family, like, hey, how come there's no Filipinos in the Olympics? And it'd always be like, because the federal government doesn't give any money. So it's just strange too, because if you think about it, for one thing, it just shows you how important government funding is, or any type of funding, so these people actually reach their potential. Because the gold medalist, Hedalin, she's a weightlifter. She had to, pretty much solicit private donations and charities to do it. And if she didn't get that, nobody would know her name. But now she's a cultural icon in the Philippines because she was lucky enough to get that funding the government probably should have been giving her.
Right. I mean, it is incredible because, like, listen, like I said, obviously there's, more important things to spend the money on, but there's also a lot of less important things we should spend money on. Like, I would much prefer money going to some of these people, not to make them rich, but to pay for them to be able to have 3 meals a day. Because it seems like a lot of these people are probably skipping meals and not for the athletic, like, physicality, physique reasons. It seems like they're probably skipping meals because they can't afford 3 meals a day. It is incredible what we expect from these guys. I really do think there are people watching the Olympics and looking at these people, because when you're a kid too, and I'm not talking about kids, but when you're a kid, you know how, like, you see people on TV, when you're like, you see someone in movies, they say like 2 or 3 lines in a movie, and you probably see them, oh, they're in a movie, they must be rich, but you grow up and find out they're like, they get a background role credit and they got like $200-300 for the day. Like,
Yeah.
There are people who really do think like, oh, they're in the Olympics, they're privileged, they make tons of money. Like, are there Olympic sports where obviously just to be able to do them, you probably do come from a background of means? Like, yeah, if you're like, if you're in the Olympics for like rowing, I mean, you probably did come from a family that was able to afford you doing such a sport. Like, that's an expensive, there are sports that are quite expensive to even just start doing. But I mean, the idea that like, the person out there doing ping pong, the professional ping pong player, is loaded, or the taekwondo bronze medalist is walking away a millionaire or something. Like, sure, the basketball people are probably wealthy, at least the Team USA is. I'm sure the gymnasts are gonna end up making a nice living for themselves. But I mean, way more of these athletes are putting way more of their own money into doing this, and they're not going to get even close to the return on investment. It really is just a thing for themselves. And the fact that there are people out there who think they owe something to them who didn't do anything for them is like incredible.
Yeah, no, absolutely well said. And so the other thing
I'm sorry, I just want to mention Lisa with the obvious sport that requires money, the horse dressage. Oh yeah, like obviously those people will be fine. I don't think we need a government funding program for the horse people, the equestrians. I was reading that to get their horses out there, there's a $25,000 business class like horse flight for these animals. Incredible.
Jeez.
$25,000 to send. I think people didn't even know that the horses are sent there. I mean, someone I know thought they just like the actual like jockeys or whatever whatever you call them in equestrian. I don't know if it's the same for. I know jockeys, horse racing. I don't know what you call the people who do the like the dressage stuff. But I think people just assume they go there and the talent is just in them, and they just like pick up a horse in Tokyo and just get them to dance around. No, they got to ship those horses out there.
Yeah, well, I'll tell you, I know that reconciliation bill in the Senate. Hopefully, there's a Medicare expansion just for equestrians in there, just to help them out. Student debt cancellation for equestrian. I think that's something Nancy Pelosi would support.
Right, that'll be the one thing that she right. That'll be. No, she's out there saying, "Look, listen, people gonna be very upset if we forgive some student loan debt." Because they're going to be thinking, I don't have any student loan debt. Why do I pay for other people's student loan debt? But then they'll slip the horse dressage stuff in there and be like, well, we got to think about the poor equestrians.
Yeah, for sure. And the other thing I wanted to call about is I'm curious about what do you think is the electoral power of the QAnon believers, and I'd even say QAnon believers / anti-vaxxers, because from my view, it's that I think if obviously the Republicans are really trying to get those people, because I think they realize if they're not already a part of their base, they're a new part of their base. But personally, I think that if Trump runs, or there's like an anointed Trump person, where he runs again, or someone like who Trump fully supports, then I think that that QAnon anti-vax um, constituency, I guess you could say, I think they'll electorally show up. I think the good news is that if Trump doesn't end up running, or the person who wins the nomination isn't like a Trump supported person, which admittedly I would see not very possible. In that case, I think these QAnon people and these anti-vaxxers mostly just check out of the electoral process, which is probably good longer term. That obviously you want these people getting out of the rabbit holes they're in, but just in terms of that's probably the most realistic best case scenario short term. So you don't have Fox News, even though they've been dying down, like willingly support this anti-vax stuff because they know they need it for their audience. So yeah, I just wanted your thoughts on that and how significant they are electorally.
I mean, I think you basically said it pretty good. They'll come out for a Trump type candidate. Obviously, I think anyone who wins is going to be a Trump like candidate. If Trump himself doesn't run, they are. I mean, just look at. I mean, the best way to see just how many QAnon-esque people there are out there. I mean, just look. I think it's the helpful thing is not to look at the Trump support. The helpful thing is to look at all these anti-vaxxers, all these anti-maskers, all these people who are COVID deniers. I mean, that's the new Republican base right there. This is in this way they're the loudest right now, and it's a lot easier to be that type of person than to be a supporter, an open supporter of the presidential candidate who lost and is basically out of the public eye right now. I was recently, I read a new study. I can't remember where I saw it. If you give me a second, I think I could pull it up.
Yeah, no problem.
Let me see. It was really interesting. This is
And oh, sorry, go on.
No, go ahead. Well, I look it up. Why don't you say what you were going to say?
Yeah, it was just briefly while you're looking. I also think that from unfortunately some of the anti-vax people I know in real life, a couple of good friends actually who probably identified as like apolitical center left. It seems that a lot of this anti-vax stuff is pushing them towards the libertarian wormhole. Maybe that's why your old boss Sam has been getting more libertarian calls lately. But I also think that this is going to lead to a bit of a resurgence in libertarians.
Right. Well, libertarians aren't really a concern, to be quite honestly, to me right now. But so if that's the case, then maybe that's actually a best case scenario because they're quite powerless. Let's. Where's the study I saw? I don't want to, because you brought it up. Something I want to bring up here, and it's a good point. Just give me one more second here. Where is this study I saw? Come on. Give me one more second. You have the floor right now if you want to take advantage and say whatever you want
to. How's it going, everybody? Hope everyone's having a good night. Subscribe to Doomed right now.
Ooh,
Patreon,
like
let's get that to 250, everybody. Let's get that to 250.
All right, here we go. So a new poll from a polling group, PRRI, basically looks at religious identities and the and how it relates to the vaccine. And obviously, a lot of white evangelicals are anti-vaxxers and not getting the vaccine. But here's something really, really interesting. They actually polled people on whether they believed in QAnon and if that matched up with if they are vaccine hesitant, meaning they haven't got it yet but might, or outright refuse vaccines. 42% of people they polled who refuse to get the vaccine, 42% of them say they are also QAnon believers. I mean, that is a huge number. Because think about all the people who refuse to get vaccinated in this country. We've got less than, I think it's less than 50% of people are vaccinated in the entire U.S. It's like high 40% or something like that. So 42% of 50% of the country, pretty much, It's just
Yeah,
unbelievable.
that's scary. And yeah, I guess before that, thanks for taking my call, Matt. But before I dip, I guess just to like contextualize just how crazy it is from an outsider's perspective, the anti-vax movement in Canada is, as I'm sure you're aware, like Canada was in a weird place where last August, where especially I know things were getting rough in New York, things were looking very, very good in Canada. We were loosening, I think we were loosening restrictions too early, but like cases were fairly low, they were falling. And then as the months went on and you guys got the vaccine, things were looking very dire, especially in Ontario. I had some nurse and healthcare friends. ICU was filling up and all of that, and it was just a very scary time. That people are vaxxed, and I'm talking to some of my friends again. Like they specifically point to like the January February period as like, yeah, I felt like no hope. Like it was just a rough time, and I can second that. Just very very tough. But it was just insane because we saw how fast you guys in the States were getting vaccinated and how slow we were getting vaccinated. And the fact that Canada's so far has surpassed you in total vaccination rate is just so insane to us. And I've had a couple friends who've moved to the States recently for like summer jobs or for contract jobs recently, and they all talk about they had their one dose in Canada. We had our doses delayed. So it like even now it's like you can sign up for the vaccine, but it's not as quick as my friends telling me. They moved to New York, second day there, they get their vaccine same day. And it's just like this, it's so easy to get. I don't know about how that is in all the states. So it's just crazy from like our perspective of just even though we have some anti-vaxxers in Canada and everything, it's like people like they want this vaccine, and to think all these people don't want it is it's just so hard to fathom.
It isn't like I just don't get. And here in New York City now, we're launching a program where basically you go get vaccinated now, and they'll pay you $100. Like that's, I mean, to me that's a smart idea actually. I mean, I wish I got $100, but I think that's a great idea. I mean, we should have been doing that from the very beginning. It should have been like ingrained in everyone's head now that like at this point that you go get vaccinated, you get paid. I mean, listen, I get people who were nervous when this vaccine first came out. We are now many months into the vaccines. We're literally, I mean, the first people who got the vaccines got them who weren't part of trials, obviously. The first people who got them once they were released, I believe it was like December they got them, if not early January. We're now 6+ months out. The vaccines are safe. We know they are because otherwise we'd have a huge portion of this country having issues, which is just not happening. There's no excuse to not getting this now. Like there's just no excuse. It's just all based on disinformation, misinformation, lies about the vaccinations, people wanting to grift off of this stuff, people wanting to pretend that they know something that medical professionals and scientists don't know themselves. I mean, it is unbelievable. And it's just, I mean, it's not unbelievable. I always say that because, I mean, we know these people existed, but it's frustrating as hell. It is truly frustrating as hell.
For sure. But yeah, thanks for taking my call, Matt. And you're one of the best journalists on this QAnon conspiracy beat. And yeah, so all the best, man, and keep on putting out that great content. Have a good one.
Oh, thank you so much. I appreciate the kind words. Have a great night. Oh, we got another caller. Let's see. What's your name? Where are you calling from?
Oh, good God. It's Chris from Michigan. I'm 2 for 2 here.
Hey, Chris, how you doing? What would you like to talk about? I'm right now in between extremely exhausted and tired, but also I'm like hyped up because
gotta mute the Twitch here. The YouTube is at a different moment, the Twitch is at a different moment, and then obviously the Skype is at a different moment. So I'm muting all that. So I was trying to take notes about different medical things that people had been bringing up in the chat and things that I have been noticing lately, since that's kind of my purview. I will insist on avoiding. After discussing the Mt. Gox thing briefly last week, or not briefly, but too long, the fact that one of the other things I invested in ended up being entangled in fucking John McAfee, or McAfee, or whatever the fuck it is. But either way. So, there is so a handful of things that have come up. Am I coming through okay? Because I keep adjusting my audio settings.
You sound. Do you hear me? Because it seems like you might not.
Yeah,
be...
yeah.
Okay, because you were.
Yeah, I can hear you.
All right, I wasn't sure if you could hear me because I was just saying before how like I'm in this weird like mode right now where people are saying in the chat, Matt, you look tired. I am exhausted, but at the same time, because I drank this energy drink, I'm also like hyped up to the point where I gotta consciously think, stop talking so fast. So I've been like this weird, like hyped up yet exhausted mode, but I'm ready. Let's do this.
Yeah. It's always dangerous when you have to make yourself stop and think before you talk. It's a dangerous realm in today's media empire. But all right, so like I said, I've been trying to jot down a handful of things that I've been seeing lately and that people in the chat have been talking about to try to give some value to medical discussion. As someone who has the painful distinction of having to dealing with medical coding and billing and working in healthcare in these great United States. So when I got my COVID vaccines, I wanted to get either the Moderna or the Pfizer. My preference was towards Moderna because Moderna, their whole goal as a company has been towards mRNA vaccines long before COVID-19 ever reared its head. They refused and denied outside investors specifically for the reason that they wanted to focus on the research and get legitimate. They were originally looking at this for preventing damage after heart attacks, after myocardial infarctions.
I did not know this. This is very interesting, and it sounds like I made the right move getting the Moderna.
Yes. And especially now with the Delta variant. Now, this is, of course, everything with this pandemic and with any pandemic and any evolving situation. Always the data it's early. It's never as much or as there's not enough numbers behind it as we would typically want it to be. But we're not looking at evaluating high cholesterol over 30 years of life. We're not looking at drinking alcohol over 50 years of life. We're looking at a virus that's evolving in the moment, so it's infinitely more complicated, and even the lesser complicated things are very hard to communicate to people that aren't in the field and aren't used to the scientific process and the scientific method and all the medical bullshit. And so with this Delta stuff, I'm bouncing all over the place, but just for those who have not been vaccinated yet or have family and friends that have not been vaccinated yet, the early data sets are suggesting that the Moderna vaccine is more effective than the Pfizer vaccine against the Delta variant. However, by the time that information comes to impact people's behavior, we may have a new, different variant that totally contradicts the current information, and that's just the state of play right now. It's extremely frustrating, but the data sets that I've seen, they show that potentially even just one dose of the Moderna vaccine, once you hit your maximum efficacy after that one dose, may be as good, if not better, than 2 doses of the Pfizer against the Delta variant. But again, this is all limited data. This could all change anytime, yada, yada, yada. But what were we talking about before that? Let's see. So this is
that was
so frustrating.
that was very interesting to me. I didn't know that about Moderna. I something about what I.
That's what we were talking about. The difference between Moderna and Pfizer. Now, like most of us know the name Pfizer because Pfizer is a massive big pharma company here that basically, they've maybe made a couple original drugs, but the most that they do is they eat up other smaller companies, which is the only reason they have a vaccine is because they bought BioNTech and they're using them as their avenue of producing a vaccine. And so, other than that, most of their business comes from once we've discovered a class of medications like statins for cholesterol or ACE inhibitors for blood pressure, they just copy and paste that shit, and you slightly change the molecule, and then you produce papers and you hide in the footnotes. You talk about how it's better for people, but then in the footnotes it says, well, in this study 80% of the 20 people that had South Pacific Islander genetic heritage showed a better result with this, so it's all bullshit, and that's Pfizer's model for the most part. Moderna I had more faith in because they were specifically founded for mRNA type stuff that wasn't even specifically for vaccination purposes against viruses, but also for things like I originally was saying was heart attacks, where there's a specific enzyme that if you inhibit it, and if you inhibit it constantly, it will create a ton of damage. But if you inhibit it specifically for a certain amount of hours after a infarction in the heart, a myocardial infarction, then you can reduce the long-term damage by 90-something%. And so they were so dedicated to that they specifically avoided outside investors, avoided having a board that would influence the research. Now, despite all that, since the Pfizer, again, let's just call it the BioNTech because Pfizer just bought them. Since the Pfizer-BioNTech was the more readily available vaccine to me here in my area, I chose them over the Moderna, even though Moderna was my first choice, because they were both the 2-dose mRNA vaccines. The Johnson & Johnson and the AstraZeneca are the DNA versions, where they, instead of using a synthetic delivery vehicle, they use a a chimpanzee virus. They take the virus material out of that delivery vehicle and they put the new code in there. To me, that seemed like a higher risk and unnecessary.
You're getting too, I think you're getting too scientisty for me.
It'll help at least 3 people out there. Either way, point is, for those who haven't been vaccinated or trying to get other people to get vaccinated, the current data suggests to go for Moderna over Pfizer. But the data is so messed up because the approvals of these vaccines were based on criteria that are totally different than what we're used to. And that's why, if you can recall back to initially when we were starting to get the vaccines out, they couldn't give us a clear answer on whether or not vaccinated people would have to wear masks or not out in public, right? Because the whole research studies, they were all based on whether or not the vaccinated people got severe illness or got illness enough to be hospitalized. And eventually, once there was enough stuff out there in practice, they said, oh, well, it seems like not only are they not getting that significantly ill, but they're also not transmitting it to other people. But now with the Delta variant, if you're dealing with 1,000 times higher viral load that transmits earlier, yada, 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 that's why they're bringing back these mask mandates even for vaccinated people, because even if you have an infinitely small or non-existent chance of getting severely ill or even getting symptoms, you still might test positive for COVID,
right?
Even
and then
though you've been
pass
vaccinated,
it to, right? And then pass it to other people, right?
But we can't prove that you aren't transferring it to other people in the grocery store.
Right.
So that's why it's important for us to still continue to take it seriously.
I mean, people who complain about the mask, I can't even take it anymore.
Right.
The whiners about the masks is just so, like, get a life. Like
Well, and
people who
these are
call them
the same.
people who call them face diapers, or people who like act like there's some like it's removing the joy from their life. Who fucking cares? It's a piece of fabric you put over your face when you go out. Most places, from my belief, don't even there's not even a talk of bringing masks back outdoors. It's simply for indoors. And for me, I mean, okay, unless maybe you work somewhere where you have to wear a mask, you're barely wearing the mask. If you're just going out shopping or something, you're walking to the store, to the grocery store to pick stuff up. Are you really going to complain about wearing a mask there? I mean, who cares? It's just such ridiculousness. People wear articles of clothing that are pointless all the time. It's just like, I brought it up when Tim Pool was complaining about it. The dude wears a beanie 24/7, no matter how hot it is. Serves no purpose other than a fashion statement. Please get over yourself complaining about the masks. Just ridiculous.
Yeah, and that was, and that was something that I've been preaching against early on in the pandemic. I did some virtual city council meeting here, or county council meeting, where there were people on there screaming about how masks are destroying children's teeth and bullshit like that.
Oh, I've seen so much of this from like anti-maskers who are parents claiming that like masks are causing psychological damage to their children. What are you talking about? Listen, I have a 6-year-old and a 2-year-old, and neither of them are affected by masks.
No, they think it's kind of fun, if anything. It's a fun thing for them.
My 2-year-old thinks they are so cool. She could not wait to wear one as soon as she was under 2. She just turned 2 recently. She didn't have to wear one due to the rules, and obviously because, she's not going to actually wear it for long unless she's like 1 years old. Like, they don't know the concept. But as she's gotten older, she wants to wear it because she sees us wearing it. Could not be any happier, could not be any more unaffected by them. It's simply something that she's like, oh, I'll put my mask on when we go out. I'm just like my mom and my dad and my big brother. This is cool. And my son, the 6-year-old, we got him cool, like, character masks. He's got like a Sonic the Hedgehog one and a dinosaur one. He thinks it's a fashion statement. He picks out which one he wants to wear. Like, he picks out a t-shirt he wants to wear when he goes to school. It's like completely a non-issue to them whatsoever.
Right, yeah, exactly. I mean, and just add it to the long list of disingenuous talking points from the people that preach against it, because as a couple people in the chat have mentioned, so, Champagne Communist is talking about shirts are so pointless. Yeah, like, it's the exact same thing as the no shirts, no shoes, no service signs. That should have been a stronger effort in the early mask mandate days, that, like, no, this isn't a violation of your freedom or your rights. This is just, these are the same people that are constantly preaching for private businesses' rights to restrict your behavior in their institution. And so if they can say that you have to wear clothes, well, of course they can say that you have to wear a mask. And so, like, the what was the other one that just came through? But I'm sorry. There's just so much with this. It's just infuriating. It's hard to keep track of all. I just want
to put, people in the chat are talking on both Twitch and YouTube are talking about the teeth thing you said.
Oh yeah, I have some of that on video. I should try to send it to you.
Yeah, send it to me, definitely.
This lady was wearing a "Don't Tread on Me" baseball cap, and she was talking about how people were claiming that masks were supposed to protect the children, and that how closing the schools or giving the option for distance education was detrimental to the kids, which of course, obviously, the distance ed was not ideal in any way. But as far as a medical standpoint, she was talking about how, like, not only would it destroy the teeth, but that, like, kids would get like cuts on their mouths and get staph infections, and the staph infections would keep them out of school rather than the COVID and shit like
the
that.
the only reason why these people cared about the school thing, and I worried about my kids too, especially my 6-year-old. He was in, he was in pre-K when this happened, and kindergarten this past year. Big points of, where the major thing for children is socialization. So that's not really something you could really do over Zoom at that age. So
Right.
yeah, I was worried about him being behind with that, especially at that age where it'd have a bigger effect, but not enough to worry, like to throw caution to the wind and risk my child's health and his teacher's health and the parents and grandparents of him and of students in his class. But the majority of these people selfishly wanting to toss their kids into school, the majority of them, their main issue essentially was that their kid was fucking home while they were home. Like, seriously, that was the thing. They loved their kids so much, they could not handle the fact that their kids were home. Like, literally. Like, that was the thing.
Yeah. Like, I mean, if anything, this was a huge spotlight on the years and decades of people not fully appreciating the value that the public education system and that teachers have for them, because suddenly they're thrust with their children in their home 24/7, and have some responsibility for their education or supervision during the typical Monday to Friday week.
Right. I listen, I gotta say, like, besides like that socialization with other kids his age concern for my 6-year-old, I gotta say that everything that happened and them being home for the past year and whatever it was, I am closer to my kids than I would have ever been. Like,
Exactly.
my 2-year-old views me completely in a way that my 6-year-old did not at that age, because we did not have that everyday time together when he was 2. I cannot complain about that aspect of it. Obviously, do I wish this happened without the whole global pandemic and people dying scenario? And of course, obviously. But I mean, the fact that you would complain about your kids being home and you spending time with them, that should be like the one fucking upshot of this whole thing.
Yeah. And obviously it all comes back to the point of perspective. And I mean,
unless obviously you had to go, you're someone who had to work on the front lines and you couldn't be
right. Yeah,
that I get. But
that was
but
that
of
was
course,
what I was say is like some people don't like, if they had the choice, they would have wanted to stay home with their kids, but they couldn't, because unless they went to work, then they'd be out on the streets, So I mean, either way, like, the point is, it really shined a light on like what the system and what our society does to us and how much it separates us from our kids and our families as like work is such a priority over everything.
Also, though, the people who are on the front lines, whether it be hospital workers to like grocery store cashiers, those people also not usually the people to be complaining in the same way these anti-maskers are. So they're completely different. They have every right to, be worried about those situations because it's a completely different concern. Thanks for the call, though. This was really great. A number of great aspects. I didn't know that about Moderna, so I feel good about going with the Moderna vaccine. Something seemed right about Moderna when compared to Pfizer and Johnson & Johnson when I was picking out which one to go to. And I mean,
just as the last thing though, they
all seem to be good and effective. I'm talking about in terms of the most ethical of the company missions. Yes.
Yeah. What the last thing I just want to say that I was getting at initially before I sidetracked myself, is that there's a TED talk from like 2015, 2016, somewhere in there, from like one of the head people at Moderna, who is talking about that and talks about their company goals and why they're denying those investments and what their whole point is. So for anyone wanting to get that information, look that up. Just look up, I don't know, either TED Talk Moderna or TED Talk mRNA. It's from a few years back. It's a few years pre-COVID because, again, they did not have COVID anywhere on their radar. in their company design. And then just the last thing for back to the whole concern about getting or not getting the vaccine, concerns about bills. I did mine through the local health department, didn't give any insurance information, didn't even give an ID, nothing, got it, no problem. The lady got it through her employer, got it, no problem. We got an estimation of benefits, an EOB, for our teenage daughter that got it through our health system under our insurance. We shouldn't have to pay anything, but just know that even as someone who works in medicine and does this coding and knows this stuff, it doesn't make any sense to me even reading this stuff. But if you have concerns about getting a bill, and if that's preventing you from getting it or preventing someone you know from getting it, just do it through your local health department. Otherwise, just read the paperwork carefully. They do the best they can to not make it obvious as far as what is being mailed to you, because obviously it's harder for them to refund you than for them to get you to pay. So
thanks for the call and the information. I really appreciate it. It was a great call. Have a great night.
Take it easy. Stay safe, everyone.
Dude. All right, let's I think there were a few more people wanted to call. I don't know how much longer I could go. There's I wanted to read this chat from in the Twitch chat. Trekkie21 says, people in Asian countries have been wearing masks for years to help keep others from getting sick. Yet some here can't wear one. Yet some people can't wear one, so others who may not have the option to take time off without pay can do their jobs without worrying about getting sick. It's funny you bring that up. Remember how I mentioned earlier in the show that I had anti-maskers coming at me? Renee, give me a second here before you call in. Remember how I said that I had anti-maskers coming after me because of a thing on Twitter I said about wearing masks? They are trying to gaslight me by claiming people in Asian countries like Japan, China, South Korea don't wearing, they would never wear masks. Some of these people said in these Asian countries. I'm a liar. I'm talking out of my ass. Some people even saying I've lived in China or Japan for some time. Never saw a single person wearing masks. I don't like, they're not affecting me because it's not true. I know for a fact it's not true. Literally hundreds of articles, videos online, even videos exploring the phenomena of South Korea, Japan, China having a history of wearing masks, going back literally to the beginning of the 20th century. But it is so crazy that this is the line that they're all passing, just lying outright, trying to rewrite history. Bizarre. And I'm going to get to that now, actually. I'm going to get to that now. Let's not do calls for a second. I'll take a call maybe after this, depending on how much time we have. I'm turning it off for just a second. Let me do this clip. I'm not going to talk about really the fight the fight I had online with someone about it, because they're not really worth the time. But the reason they came on my radar was because of a thing from oh wait, where did it go? Hold on, I got to pull this up. Give me 1 second. The reason this even came on my radar was because of a tweet from Brian Stelter of CNN. Let me pull this up. Give me just 1 second. Because it was really, really annoying. And by the way, this segment, when I put it up, you guys should all tweet this at Brian Stelter. Because he's a guy who his whole job is media criticism. And he completely, this is ridiculous what happened here. So I'm online the other day on Twitter, and Brian Stelter tweets out this tweet, and Oliver Darcy. Let me reset here. So I'm on Twitter the other day, and I catch Brian Stelter of CNN. He has a show called Reliable Sources, which is basically a look at how the media is covering things. It's like a media criticism show on CNN every weekend. And he tweets out a tweet sharing a comment from a business owner in NYC. And Oliver Darcy of CNN, a reporter there, also shares it. So Brian Stelter basically tweets out art gallery owner NYC and embeds under it this rant from an art gallery owner NYC who's going on this anti-mask rant, completely against people bringing back any mask mandates, saying it removes joy from people and it's going to kill the tourism industry and all these other things that he's going on about. And Oliver Darcy says, one of the voices often missing from media coverage on these restrictions are business owners. And then I go online and check my email, and I come across the Reliable Sources newsletter that went out on Thursday. And under this part, 6 ideas for news coverage. Covering coronavirus has never been easy, and the task journalists face has become even more complex in recent days and weeks. Sometimes in such scenarios, it can be helpful to step back and question some of the basic aspects of the way stories are being reported and discussed. This is what I did on Wednesday, and I was left with 6 ideas about how to improve coverage across the board. And I scroll down, and I come across this. One of the 6 ways, make sure people affected by policy recommendations are represented. Eli Klein, an art gallery owner in NYC, that's the guy that Brian Stelter shined a light on, where hospitalizations and deaths are low, tweeted Wednesday, a mask mandate is a slowdown for all indoor entertainment venues, stadiums, gyms, theaters, concert halls, clubs, malls, stores, offices, etc. People don't want to do these things if they have to cover their face. He pointed out that a mask mandate in NYC would diminish tourism and beat up those already crushed by COVID restrictions. He says again here, let's hear more from voices like this. Again, let's hear more from business owners. I cannot believe this coming from these guys. Are you kidding me? Every single thing about this pandemic from day one has been centering the voices of business owners. Our actions, government policy and regulations has completely centered the business owners. People having to make money, the economy, letting businesses make money. It's all just been all about that 24/7. And don't just believe me. Please don't just believe me. I went online before doing this show, and I thought to myself, let me take a few minutes. I didn't have much time to do it, so I said, let me take a few minutes and see how much coverage of business owners I could find. Now, one of these voices that CNN, Brian Stelter and Oliver Darcy is saying we should cover more. We're not hearing from these voices. So I thought to myself, how much has CNN been covering these voices? Has there been a lack of coverage? Has there been an empty void of business owners, at least on CNN, not about COVID restrictions and what's going on with policies around COVID and how it affects business owners? And I was looking, and I was starting to create a compilation of some of the things I was finding, but then I came across a clip where I didn't even have to do that. CNN themselves created a compilation of just some of the business owners they've talked to on their show. Let's see how they've been covering this. Some of these voices we just haven't been hearing from. It's just incredible to me. Just incredible. Oh, let me pull up the audio here.
But to this point of people not going back, right? I mean, we're seeing it across the country. Yes, it's anecdotal, but it's in Democratic states. It's in Republican states. We've all seen the signs. I mean, here's just a few people we've spoken to, business owners in 3 Democratic states, New York, California, and New Mexico.
They're basically making too much on unemployment. It's easy to kick back and get a check every month and not have to do anything.
They're doing better with unemployment than actually going out to work.
We're supposed to go hire people to retain them, but at the same time you're paying unemployment. It creates a conflict of interest, so to speak.
Oh, wait, there's another one. Excuse me, I'm
The
sorry.
money that people are making on unemployment right now, quite honestly, is more than what we were paying them before.
Do you feel like you're competing with unemployment?
No question.
They don't want to come out.
Now, I want to, that was the compilation that they put together. I have a few more clips I'll show you in a second. That's the compilation they put together to prove that, these unemployment policies that went through to help the workers, the people of this country, when they were being furloughed and when they were not able to go to work, those things, keeping them healthy and safe and sustaining them so they didn't, not have a money-making opportunity to provide for their family. Just unbelievable. Those things, honestly, I'm like, I cannot believe this. I got to reset here. It's honestly bothering me so much. Those are the voices apparently we haven't heard from. Apparently, we've not heard enough from those people, those half a dozen people we just saw in that CNN compilation complaining about workers getting unemployment because it's making their life hard, hiring workers to exploit to make money during a pandemic. Just absurd. And I want to play some more here.
About a year ago, I could barely walk.
Back to that Charlie Kirk thing.
But to
that compilation wasn't enough. I came across some. Oh, actually, let me talk about this guy. Let me hit this guy really fast. This guy, I looked up. Let me play him again. Actually, let me play this guy again. Actually,
we're supposed to go hire people to retain them, but at the same time you're paying unemployment. It creates a conflict of interest, so to speak.
That guy complained about paying his employees more money. And, he went on in another article I saw saying he couldn't afford to do so, et cetera, et cetera. The dude was opening another restaurant, and he owns like a high-end New York, Manhattan restaurant. And then he's going ahead to open a new restaurant in Washington, D.C. as he's complaining about this. But let me now fast forward to more clips that I personally found centering these voices where we just haven't heard from, apparently.
They don't want to come out. They don't want to come out because the prices are right.
How does unemployment fit into that piece?
People would rather just get the unemployment.
Because in many cases, it pays more. But that doesn't help employers like Josh Souter.
I have, employees that won't return my calls. I had one employee show up and quit 2 days later to go back on unemployment.
Souter runs a Drunken Crab in North Hollywood, California. When we met him at the beginning of the coronavirus crisis, he had just laid off 75 employees.
Just take that in for a second. Listen to how they are covering this. They never cover these poor business owners, but listen to how they cover that. Woe is this guy who's trying to call his employees to come back to work, and they're not coming back to work, and the ones that are quitting, how dare they do that, right? How dare they sit at home and make more money on unemployment instead of going out there, risking their health to work for this guy who won't pay them more. But then they talk about right after, this guy had to, unfortunately, early in the pandemic, he had to lay them all off. Oh, okay. It's okay for this guy. It's okay for this guy to fire his employees for himself. But when it's time for them to come back, when it's time for his employees, when it's time for him to ask his employees to come back, they have the nerve for not coming back? Like, I am so frustrated here, honestly. The disconnect here. The poor guy had to fire his employees, and then they wouldn't come back when it was convenient for him. Unbelievable. But they haven't covered these guys enough, right? They haven't covered these guys enough. Literally every single thing that we've done during this pandemic has been to center businesses, been to center the economy. All this talk about getting people back to work. You have Andrew Cuomo. Where's this tweet I have here? You have Andrew Cuomo, New York Governor Andrew Cuomo, who obviously was great on COVID in the beginning with all those nursing home deaths. He's out there saying, let me pull this out a little bit. Governor Cuomo calls that, this is from Zach Fink of New York One. New York Governor Cuomo calls directly on private employers to bring employees back to work in person by Labor Day. Everyone has to be back in the office, Cuomo says. And as Zach Fink of New York One points out, this requirement would seem to align closely with the interests of commercial real estate in New York City facing a big hit. Everyone has to be back in the in person by Labor Day. Why by Labor Day? Really weird how all these special rule changes that just happen to be health related just seem to coincide with what's best for businesses. For example, how all of a sudden the restaurants in New York City reopened for Valentine's Day. What a coinkydink that COVID said, hey, we're going to drop in cases and I'm going to stop killing people in time for Valentine's Day because I don't want to hurt the poor restaurants of New York City. Fucking absurd. Just absurd. 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 Think about the poor business owners. The next time we do coverage, we're not talking about them enough. Everything we've done. All those businesses that got to stay open during the pandemic. So putting people, the grocery store workers in the direct line of fire when it came to COVID deaths. The hospital workers, the forcing of reopening of schools, putting teachers in harm's way. They didn't sign up for life-threatening jobs. Absurd. The whole idea to get parents back in the office so the schools have to reopen for that. Every single thing. Someone should do a study if there hasn't been already. How many unnecessary lives were lost because of the centering of those voices that apparently we're just not hearing enough of? Garbage. And I looked it up too. All the coverage that I came across where CNN did talk to workers, it was all framed in the sense, oh, how does it feel to know you're making more money sitting home? Do you feel like you have an obligation to go back to work while interviewing a single mom or a recently laid off college student who's making minimum wage and trying to make their rent? Where's CNN, by the way, covering the the eviction moratoriums? Here they are centering those voices of business owners. We got to center more of them. The eviction moratorium is about to end. In New York alone, I was reading today, New York City alone, 500,000 people. No, I'm sorry, not people, households. 500,000 households. God, I could only think of how many children are living in those households. 500,000 households are behind in their rent and are facing eviction when this moratorium ends. It's coming. And there's no extension coming from the CDC. You got President Biden out there saying if we're going to extend it, we need Congress to act. How many of those renters have we heard from? You got homeless people. I see it in New York. Homeless people being evicted. While there's Delta variants going, this Delta variants going around and cases are flying up, we're now removing homeless people in New York City from the hotel rooms that we've put them up in during the pandemic, and we're putting them back into shelters where there are 12 people to a room. Are we out there talking to homeless people, CNN, to talk about their situation? If they're worried about dying? Because we're deciding, no more, we're not going to do this anymore. And I'll guarantee you, business has something to do with that. Hotels want their space back, I'm going to assume. Landlords want their money, right? Time to pay the piper. Oh, I was reading actually that the rent relief that was supposed to help out, in some states, something like less than 10% of that rent relief has gone out. Billions of dollars just sitting there as landlords are getting their evictions ready when that rent relief could be sent out to stop those evictions. Where's CNN covering that? Are they talking to are they going after whatever agency is dropping the ball there? Are they doing interviews with those people who haven't received their rent relief and are facing eviction as their landlords go to get them out? I'm mad, man. I'm pissed off. I've been talking about the oncoming renter crisis since the beginning of this pandemic. You can go back episodes to March 2020. It's been one of my major things about this pandemic. People lost their jobs. They got money from the government to stay home. That was enough to pay off bills in terms of buying food, paying for electricity, things like that. People obviously doing what they can to try to pay as much they could in rent, but not making enough to pay off their full monthly rent. And that shit's piling up. You think these people can go back to work and be able to save up 18 months of back rent while also paying their current rent? You out of your fucking mind. Unbelievable. We haven't heard enough from the business owners. How the mask mandate is affecting him. How the mask mandate is affecting an art gallery owner in New York City. How is the lack of a mask mandate affecting the fast food workers making minimum wage at McDonald's and Burger King, dealing with thousands of people coming up to them, ordering without a mask in their face, spreading their germs all over them? All the various service workers across this country who got to deal with thousands of people in who knows what health condition, in who knows what sort of vaccine condition. Where's the interview with those people, the service workers who have to deal with this? Why don't you ask them how the lack of a mask mandate now is affecting them? How many people got sick and died? How many people got sick and had to stay home? How many people got sick and were fearful that they would spread it to their family members they live with? No, let's center more of the business voices. Garbage. And people wonder why the media is a joke? But that's how they think they should fix it? Talking to more business owners? Garbage. Garbage, man. I think I gotta. I'll let one more person call in so they could take the. I'm just so angry when I saw that. So fucking angry. How is it affecting the art gallery owner in New York City? I'll tell you how it's affecting him. I don't give a shit. Let me tell you, if you have an art gallery in NYC, you're loaded. I'm sorry, you're loaded. Art gallery owner in NYC. We're not even talking about like some guy who's running a bodega or a coffee shop or, saved up and owns a restaurant in like, Jackson Heights, Queens or like Red Hook, Brooklyn. Like, are you kidding me? The art gallery owner in Manhattan? He's the guy, by the way, if anyone wants to know, he's the guy who sent the anti-maskers after me. The art gallery owner, and I don't want to give him much coverage in this. I'm not going to include him in the clip outside of Stelter's discussion of him in reliable sources. But he's the asshole who's sending these anti-maskers at me. And I say, keep bringing them. Keep bringing them. Hey, caller, you're on the air.
Hey. Can you hear me all right?
Yeah, I can hear you. How you doing?
All right. Yeah, I'm doing pretty good. Let me see if I can get the trying to turn speaker on so that I can be better. Okay. So anyway. All right. So I didn't want to talk about this on the Majority Report because Emma seems really tired of it, but I did kind of want to make a bit of a comment about the sign thing.
For people who don't know, because this is it always shocked me. I really thought most people knew me from the Majority Report. Turns out I have listeners and viewers from all over literally people who say, "Oh, I remember your videos for Cafe when you were there. Oh, I just know you from Twitter. Oh, I just discovered your podcast alone." It shocked me that you would find people know about this show and not the Majority Report, but those people exist. So apparently, Emma, who is a co-host of the Majority Report, formerly of TYT, was talking shit about those like aspirational like political yard signs that people have out there, like I believe in the science and stuff like that, or like I
have the link. I can send it to you.
Oh yeah, go ahead.
There we go. Because I was going to, because like I have a critique of these signs, but I do think that Sam has a point. But like my critique
I don't even know what Sam's argument was, to be honest.
Yeah, I can.
Because I missed the actual. I fell into the conversation while it was already going on from a previous episode, so I have no idea. I just said. I think I said I don't give a shit, but at the same time I do think they're a little bit corny. But hell, it's just not for me. Like that's been my argument. Like I don't care what people do. Like I really don't. Like if like that's my thing with like the masker people. Listen, like if there's no mandate and you don't want to wear a mask, then have at it. Whatever you want to do. But these people can't just be happy with not wearing a mask. They need to fucking get angry that other people are still wearing a mask. It's like that's what bothers me. Like if you want to, if you want a yard sign, it doesn't affect me. Have fun.
Yeah. The thing that made me want to call in and talk about it is mostly because I felt like it was not being the sign was not being, I think, accurately described on the show today. In that, like the specific thing, Emma is sort of honing in on one of the sort of statements on the sign in the middle. The science is real, but I want to just read the sign real quick. So it says, "In this house, we believe: Black Lives Matter, women's rights are human rights. No human is illegal. Science is real. Love is love. Kindness is everything. Now, I do think this sign is annoying, but one of the things that I think of this sign is annoying. Okay, one of the things that sticks out to me is the science is real thing. That first of all, I find that a very vapid statement. Like, yes, people do science in the world, and oftentimes they find things that are not only correct, but things that we should just generally operate assuming as true. But like, the way that phrase operates in the world is actually pretty condescending usually, even though they're technically correct. Like, that is a phrase that a lot of people find really condescending. So I find that particular like line of it makes the rest of the sign rhetorically worse, in that I feel like it maybe cheapens the rest of the sign. The second thing that I don't like about it is if it were however many, if it were like 5 different signs and one said Black Lives Matter and another one said no human being is legal and another one was about like women's rights and another one was about like, gay marriage, then like that wouldn't bother me as much. But putting it in like a list form like that does feel a little bit sort of, it does feel like it cheapens them all a bit by making them seem like they're just part of a bullet pointed list. It's kind of like that thing that I've started seeing recently, Black trans lives matter, which yes, Black trans women are murdered far more than other people, or disproportionately more than other people. Probably relevant for me to say, I am a trans woman who is African American. So I just wanted to throw that out there. Like, the thing about the Black Trans Lives Matter sign that annoys me is that, like, Black Lives Matter is a very specific phrase in our culture right now that has a certain function, and Black Trans Lives Matter seems to be trying to almost say that Black Lives Matter is too broad a concept and we need to like make a very specific statement about like Black trans lives. But like, trans rights are kind of approached in a different way than like Black Lives Matter. It's a different sort of movement with different goals and different. I mean, obviously there's some things that just are good across the board for both movements, like say Medicare for all. But sort of,
I always took that. Obviously, you have a more, your take is obviously more, has more weight than mine, being who you are. But I always personally looked at it as the reason why they separated the two was because, and not even separated, but focused on Black trans lives. When they would say that is because there seems to be this epidemic of Black trans women being killed, and it seems like these are all being just like brushed under the rug. Nothing ever comes from it. It's not taken with the same seriousness by police as like there often is no closure to those cases. So I always I never looked at it as anything like what was that? I'm sorry.
And they're often misgendered in their death statement, like listed as male, that kind of thing, dead named in, police reports and, that kind of thing. Because also, it's very hard to change your legal name. I am trying to deal with that hassle right now. But yeah, like there is this sort of like, one might call it like an epidemic of murdering of trans women who are African American in this country, although it's too long-standing a problem to really call it an epidemic, in my opinion. But, right. That is a different problem than the Black Lives Matter, because Black Lives Matter is about like, summary executions of Black people, oftentimes, but not exclusively, men, out like by, operatives of the state. Whereas like Black trans women getting murdered oftentimes is just by, straight men who have just slept with them. And right. So like the main thing is that this feels like just a very different issue and it seems like an odd time to sort of allude to Black Lives Matter while talking about like the, Black trans women trans women, but especially Black trans women getting murdered disproportionately compared to other people, particularly by domestic partners or sex partners, whatever, however you want to phrase that. Like the thing that frustrates me is if you're going to make a sign that's about the Black Trans Lives Matter thing, I think it would be better to just have a very simple, like as simple as you could get, graphic design that breaks down the statistic that, like, the rate of homicide for, general people is this, the rate of homicide for Black trans women is this. And that was just make the point really clearly, really succinctly.
Right. But the thing there is, though, that's not an aspirational type of sign people want to put on their lawn. You know what I mean? Like, you have to understand why people put
like Black trans women are getting murdered by police, and that happens, but that's not like.
Oh, I never really take it like that. I always look at the overlap of the two is that police don't take solving those cases seriously.
Okay, that's.
I think I always looked at it. Maybe I'm wrong, and people are, but I that's where I saw the overlap, because, like you even said, they misgender Black trans women even when they're putting out the, what was it you said, the death certificate or the statement. I mean, it's clear they just don't take it.
Reports, etc. And yeah, if they haven't changed their legal name, the death certificate will have their dead name. So
I mean, it wouldn't even surprise me if cops look at the situation and they say, hey, I'd be just as pissed if I found out that I was sleeping with a trans woman, and I get it. That wouldn't even shock me if that's how they think.
Yeah,
think about it. I mean, that's how these, like, there's a lot of overlap in those types of guys, and who's a police officer. It's scary to think about. You know what I mean?
Well, okay, but the people who, oftentimes sleep with trans women and then shortly afterwards murder them tend to be people who are specifically actually fetishizing trans women. And they're actually legitimately attracted to them and feel ashamed of it because they're sort of conflating attraction with trans women to attraction with men.
Right, but that's not how that's ever covered. You know what I mean? That's not what anyone thinks. People think of, because they look at trans women as being some sort of lie, right? Like they're lying to us, like, because they expect when they think of a trans woman, they think the stereotypical, like, their version of, like, a guy like a wearing a wig, like a cross dresser or something like that, which is they never assume that, wow, trans people exist and this really is a thing, and they go through the process and they actually you actually cannot tell the difference.
Okay.
And then, that's what I think, like, they don't even think of. So when they think of these cases, they go, this trans woman lied to this guy or something like that.
Okay. I will just, like, concede the Black Trans Lives Matter thing, because that's not on this sign. I was just trying to, like, use that as an analogical example, but I also want
to say I don't think you're wrong. I'm just bringing to you what I think their perspective is and why they see it and how they see it, I should say, which is why I think that that's not really an issue, I think. But I also think you're right too, in terms of, like, it just being, what it is.
Yeah. Your interpretation of it is persuasive to me. I just, that wasn't really, like, my point. My point is just, like, to sort of, like, have one lawn sign that you can sell that just, like, demonstrates I am correct on all of these issues doesn't really seem to demonstrate much commitment to any of the issues in particular. And in particular, like, the science is real one kind of sticks out to me like a sore thumb among those, because the rest are about human rights. And that one is just about being, correct factually about, like, the current state of science and, what its political implications are. And that just feels like a very different political issue to be wrapping up in things like, bodily autonomy, gay marriage, immigration, and, like, summary execution of Black people. Like, it seems like a weird thing. And to me, the sign is annoyingly, like, and I'm using this in the technical sense of the term, it's annoyingly liberal. Like, it has that sort of wonky, suburban feel to it. But, and this was Sam's point, Sam was saying that, okay, but, it may be sort of like, shallow and uninteresting and whatnot. But I imagine that people of these marginalized identities, like, say a Black person or, an immigrant, might see that sign and feel some amount of comfort. Just think, okay, well, at least not everybody around here is against me. And I think Sam's correct on that, because so I'm an Uber driver. And as I'm driving around, one of the things that happens to me is sometimes I will pick somebody up from a house that has that sign, that very specific sign. It is being mass produced, apparently. And I do have a feeling of relief when I pull up to where I'm picking somebody up and I see that sign. At the very least, I know whoever it is not going to be hostile to me, a trans woman. Now, the sign doesn't say anything about trans rights. There's the love is love, but that's more of like a gay and bisexual thing than it is a trans thing. But setting that aside, I do feel more safe letting somebody into my car if they come from one of, a house that has that, than if I pulled up to somebody's place and they have a Trump sign, which is very rare where I am. I tend to be in a very centrist-y, apolitical area of my state. But I do worry that, say somebody really conservative or reactionary is going to get in my car and maybe start antagonizing me or intentionally misgendering me or that kind of thing. Or, there was like a few weeks back, somebody sexually harassed me. And so I worry, but I feel safer when somebody from one of those houses gets in my car. So on the one hand, I agree with Emma that the sign is annoying and annoyingly liberal and seems really shallow. But I think Sam was actually correct. I myself feel safer when I see those signs. And that's all that Sam was saying. So I found it kind of weird that, whoever it was that IM'd in to Majority Report was saying that Sam's take was just wrong. I'm sorry, I have the exact opposite experience. And, because I'm oftentimes letting these people into my car. It just feels better when I see it. So anyway, that's the main thing I wanted to say.
I actually think that's a great point. I mean, I didn't think it, again, I don't have that strong of an opinion on it. I personally, like I said, I think it's, I wouldn't put a sign like that out there because I think it's a little bit, I think all those aspirational, when I even sort of misunderstood the conversation. I even brought up an example of how my mom has those believe in this house is a house, those sort of it's aspirational, signs that moms and grandmas love that they put in their home. I was totally misunderstanding, I guess. But still with that said, I do sort of agree that just the signs that just throw everything on there is a little bit corny. I wouldn't have a sign like that. I probably would want to focus on a specific issue if I was to have a sign. But I also think your point is great. I mean, that's totally something I'm sure people don't necessarily think of, especially if you're not in a super progressive area, if you're not living in New York City or San Francisco or Chicago or something. I don't know.
The draw around here. I called in a while back. I think I said I was in the Nashville area, and it's just Middle Tennessee has this sort of very on the public level, this extremely centrist sort of public discourse and apolitical public discourse. But under the surface, you have a lot of people who just aren't actually voicing their right-wing views, until they get in sort of a closed space with people that they know. And, oftentimes as an Uber driver, people just ignore me and just keep talking to each other. So although I've noticed since I actually since I transitioned, I don't get as many of these kinds of conversations. They apparently don't feel as comfortable having them in front of a woman or a trans woman than in front of somebody who is trying her best to look like a boy. But anyway, Yeah, I hadn't changed my name on Uber yet. But anyway.
I really appreciate the call. I think that we had two different conversations here. I think both of them were very interesting, and your perspective is important to get, especially with your point about how those signs make you feel welcome. In fact, I'm sure hearing what you said might convince some people to, again, maybe they won't get the overarching every single thing on one sign, but maybe they'll get a sign specifically on something that they believe in that will make other people, marginalized people in their area, feel comfortable. And I think that would be great. Great points. I really appreciate the call.
No problem. You take care.
Have a great night.
You too.
Ravana on the Twitch chat says, is Matt not affiliated here? I don't think I am, and it's because I couldn't do the simulcast. Although if Twitch starts to grow, maybe I do need to do 2 separate streams and do a Twitch show. So I can do both and be an affiliate on Twitch and get money from Twitch. Because Twitch is basically just... also, before I go, I want to start doing this too. I'm going to try to remember. Tell me someone to raid on Twitch. I will do it at the end of the program. I want to make sure I help out other streamers. We got one. I'll do one more call. One more call. I just hung up on Renee, it looks like, by accident. Call back in. But how do I raid again? I want to raid someone. Hello?
Hey, what's up, Matt?
Hey, Dave from Jamaica. I can tell, buddy. How you doing?
Yeah, look. Oh, oops. All right, hold on. Let me mute the YouTube. All right, good. So, very interesting discussion. I tend to side with Emma, but I guess I'm going to bring a different angle to that conversation, because you and me, Matt, we're getting up there in age. So you remember the Obama years, and we used to get. Oh, we're really getting up there.
But it really. I'm not even making. I wish I was funny enough to think of that. I wasn't even making a joke about that. I was actually literally like, who? Obama? Who is Obama? Like, it is amazing how far, like how like, other than obviously this is a big thing, the first black president. But other than that, like policy wise and things that stuck, like, it's just nothing.
No, but here's
Obamacare. Yeah, that's it.
But here's one thing Obama did that we don't know about. He's killed the platitude. I think, generationally speaking, our generation has become more allergic to platitudes thanks to Obama. I think he's kind of made us all more cynical when it comes to that stuff, because, like, I tend to hold Emma's position on it. When I saw those signs, my eyes was rolling, because, like, as you say, I prefer call to actions, right? And I understand that people might feel a little bit better, but I guess I come at it from the angle of, if I was dumped into a shark tank, because I live in a very conservative country, right? And all the sharks had that on the side of them.
I'm sorry. I honestly thought, because you were like, if I was dunked into a shark tank, and then I thought you were going to say, now listen, I live in a country where shark tanks are everywhere. Because it sounded like you were about to add the addendum of why, like, you're saying shark tanks. But so we went somewhere completely else. But go ahead.
So, like, on the side of each shark, you have man-eater, and I guess that's kind of what being in a conservative area and you having a opposite political view is. To me, it doesn't bring me much comfort if I see one sign that says something I agree with, because I'm still in a fucking shark tank, right? One shark that says I only eat krill ain't going to help me with the other sharks that's going to eat me. So I guess that maybe I'm too cynical, and maybe that's a critique of us millennials that we're too cynical. But on the other hand, I think maybe the people who say that sign makes them feel better, maybe they need to ask for a little bit more.
Right? Yeah. I mean, we should put a whole. Maybe we don't need. Maybe the March for Medicare for All guys are wrong. Maybe they just need to all put Medicare for All signs on their front lawn. I mean,
oh yeah, that's disappointing.
I didn't even get into that that happened last week. The March for Medicare for All. I did 2 videos that did pretty well on it, and I don't know what's going on. I don't want to say anything about the Combo Couch guys and the debate yet.
Here's something that'll make you feel good. I've been trying to link that video, and I think it was well done enough that the people who are kind of door adjacent or so on, but not fully in there, when they see that video, it gives them some pause and some reflection. So don't feel it's gone into the void in any way.
Right.
It works. It works.
Well, that's good to hear. I'm disappointed because I said last week I'm going to do another extra stream this week. And the stream I was talking about at the time was I was talking with the Combo Couch guys to do this debate they wanted to do. And we didn't do it yet. The guy, Pasta is his name on Combo Couch. He reached out to me back a month ago, I think it was now, challenging me on Twitter. You could see he was very in my I don't care. He's do it, go ahead. I would do the same thing, but really confrontational about it. And then cool, I thought, let's do this. And then we spoke on the phone recently, too, to try to work out making it happen. And it was supposed to happen this week. And then he lets me know that they can't make it work this week because of scheduling conflicts. Listen, I'm not saying anything. I'm going to believe it's a scheduling conflict. But if we don't do this, he said next week, hopefully. Listen, if we don't do this next week, though, then I'm going to start making a thing out of it because you make this work, right? Unless these guys are on vacation, which is clearly they're not doing a show right now. They're out of town, but they are doing a show. I see they do a show. They've been doing shows. They're regular shows. Let's make this happen. I don't see what's so difficult about making this happen. It's gonna, if they're worried about, I already told them because he had concerns about, he didn't want to do at each other's throat type of debate. And I was like, listen,
fair enough.
We'll just have a friendly conversation. We're going to disagree, obviously. I'm not going to personally disparage you, but I will call you out if I think you are saying that, but that's how it's going to be. It's not going to be attacks or anything. And he seems
trying. No, sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt. Go ahead.
And the same thing with and it's sort of my fault too on this end because I was waiting to hear from him and I never did. I haven't heard from Tim Pool and I was supposed to do his show this week.
No, I think you might have got blacklisted because you are associated.
He told me when after that debate with Crowder already happened, he'd have me on. I'm going to assume that it's been a while. And I got lost in the cracks. I'm going to reach out and find out what the deal is there.
I think Tim Pool had a moment of clarity. Maybe that's
I saw how he had Vosh on and Destiny on, and and I think it'll be just like that. To be quite frank, I don't think it'll be anything to worry about for him. I think I actually like his format of having someone on like Vosh or Destiny, and they just basically did the regular Tim Pool show where he gets his stories off Daily Mail or wherever he gets his stories from. And they just do the show with the guest like they normally do, where they spark conversation based on current events. I think that's great, actually. I really enjoy. I was when I saw that that's how Vosh and Destiny did it, I was like, shit, I'm more excited for this than if I went on to debate Tim Pool on the topics, because I would have a lot more fun just having a conversation with him about the issues of the day. Obviously, we're going to disagree, but I think that's way, way better to do than just these are the debate topics and we're going to debate them.
Well, if you remember,
just look at how pointless how pointless the Sam Cedar, Brianna Gray debate about forced to vote was. Completely pointless. Nothing came out of that whatsoever. True. In fact, I think that was probably Sam's weakest debate. I thought something that happened with Brianna, that one of the things she pulled, I was really disappointed to see, and I have a very different opinion about her after seeing that. But just pointless debate. Nothing came out of it whatsoever. And that's because they were like, we're going to debate this issue that has a shelf life of approximately 2 weeks. Like, pointless.
Yeah, it's depressing. It was pointless. But the thing is, I remember the Tim Pool Sam Cedar first debate when he didn't have issues with online debates over Skype. And that was pretty tame, if you remember it, right?
Right, so, but I think, if Tim thinks it's gonna be like one of those, I don't really want to do one of those. Like the idea that they like had that debate, like I much prefer the way he did it with Vosh, where they literally just pulled stories up like Tim usually does on his show.
That's a good format. Actually, I agree with that. Yeah. Well, here's the thing. This is me. This is conspiracy tone coming from me, but I do notice that right wingers do communicate with each other, and I think you might have been stamped with the black mark of Sam Cedar.
I mean, if that happened, that's the most ridiculous thing ever. Because all you have to do is look at the history of me interacting with right wingers and know that I never snuck up on any of them and pulled off a secret. I had Caitlin Bennett, the Kent State gun girl, on this show.
True.
I had former Turning Point USA, who were still Trump supporters and right wingers, just weren't part of Turning Point USA on this show. I've had debates with men's rights activists. Literally anyone could call into this show. I've had debates with libertarians. I mean, there's probably no one who acts in more good faith, to my detriment sometimes, honestly, than me. I mean, I truly go into all these things. I've told you my opinion that if you are someone, I don't care who you are, and you engage, I don't think I could think you're the scum of the earth in all other aspects, but I will have a conversation with you if you engage that's respectful, just because I respect the fact that you engage.
I think, well, here's the thing. I think, all right, bringing up Yaron, the libertarian guy, I think, as I said, these right-wingers kind of talk to each other. They have the little DMs. They're cliquish like that. I think they are afraid because, similar to Sam's style, your style tends to make them say what they really believe. And when they say what they really believe, it's very horrible and not appealing, right? So what's happening is, I think they're very wary of that now.
Right.
Anybody who does that type of style, even yours, she's conversational, right?
Right.
They're afraid it makes them look bad. So I think they're beginning to learn and recalibrate the message. In other words, they want to debate people who don't make their ideas look terrible.
Right, of course, yes, of course. But the thing is, that's to me like it's almost impossible to look bad if you engage. Like, you will have your supporters no matter what. Like, even if you come off bad, there's still people who think you made the better points just because they've picked their team. I think you look really bad if you just don't. If you just completely ignore.
I agree with you, but I don't know if they see. Remember, I think one thing I've learned when I was younger is logic ain't the same for everybody.
Right.
That's true, right? What makes sense to us does not. They believe in crazy shit, so it's kind of hard to fathom the thinking process of it all.
Right.
But I guess that's. But I hope you get the debate with him, or not. You shouldn't say. I hope you get the conversation with him, and then Tim Pool will hoist himself on his own petard as he usually does. But
I've watched his show. I think, I think it would be an interesting discussion. I think his audience would enjoy it. I would be very respectful. I'd be going to his home. So I don't know.
I was going to ask you: are you going to slip his producer like a note so he can call for help, because his producer's been trying to save Tim Pool from his so maybe he wants to jump ship.
Right. Yeah.
But yeah,
I mean, it's honestly disappointing that these certain people won't engage. It's like, listen, I get that, like, okay, I don't have the biggest channel, so if it's a waste of time for you, fine. But I mean, just in general, like.
No, I don't think they're afraid of your channel size. I really do think they're becoming a little savvier. No, they're going to start trying to go back to the old school trick of picking easy opponents, kind of like when Fox News has on the Democrat,
right,
the
right.
kicker.
Yeah.
I think that's the move they're going for.
I came to the debate game too late, I guess.
No. I think you're going to get the true believers. You will always get the true believers.
I should reach back out to Baked Alaska.
You think he's a true believer?
Oh, Baked Alaska wanted to call into the show when I had Jared Holt on.
Oh.
And then he emailed me and said he wanted me to go on his show. And that I don't know, not because I am afraid of Baked Alaska, it's because I don't want my name on the guest list of Baked Alaska's show. Just like
yeah.
But I'd be happy to discuss with him on this program or on a neutral program. That's not what I'm worried about. I just don't like. There was I'm totally open to debate anyone. They could call into this show. We could, but one person I did turn down was a guy who ran a program called like the Daily, some like really like anti-Semitic name. I can't remember right now. And I was like, I'm not going on your show. You want to call into mine? I'll take your call. I'm not having my name associated with the name of your show.
Oh, speaking of anti-Semitism, and I know you keep track of this stuff because I remember you were talking about this.
Sisyphean Task says on YouTube, I don't think Baked could make it.
Oh yeah, doesn't he have legal troubles?
He's gonna probably spend some time to get some time, but he's not in jail yet. So maybe I could get on his
further incriminate him. Sorry, as for him further incriminate himself.
Oh wait, someone says, are you talking about the Daily Show, Matt? No, it was a different show. I think it was like the Daily Goyim, to be honest. I'm thinking about it now.
Oh Jesus.
Yeah.
That's kind of
not going on the show. I mean, I'm literally have a Jewish background. Not gonna go on that show.
That's a bit too much. Yeah. I was trying to remember because you always keep track of this stuff before it pops off. I remember you were doing this story on the son of a Russian oligarch that was like really into the white supremacist anti-Semite stuff. You remember the dude's name or anything, or it's not ringing any bells?
Who are you talking about? Say one more time.
Like I don't remember his name. He's like the son of a Russian oligarch, and he was like promoting some serious they shut that shit down immediately.
Yes, he's what's the name of that group? They're really legit, like serious. Oh my God, I'm having a mental block. 1 second, I'm looking right now. Where is it? If you go on the Doomcast, you could probably find it. Let me see.
I think the only reason I bring this up because I'm hearing, and I don't know how much of this is like liberal media over panicking, because Russia's a big place. So, but the thing is, I heard there's something about the rising of something called like the nationalistic Bolshevik Party or something like that, where they kind of borrow the old communist aesthetics, but it's really just a fascist party.
Right. Hold on.
Or sorry.
I think I found it. 1 second. Oh my God, Michael Hayden's been on the show a lot. Oh yeah, Iron March.
Right.
Alexander Stavros.
You think Mr. Stavros is involved in this new rebranding thing? Because I heard some stories of something similar happening in Russia now, where they're having this kind of nationalist Bolshevik thing.
I don't know. I've honestly not been following what's going on with international, at least on that part of the world, fascist movement. I'm not sure, honestly. I do know Matthew Heimbeck here is bringing back, is getting back involved, and he's starting a new organization, a new neo-Nazi organization.
Oh, okay. No, the reason, as I said, I'm not one of those who buy into the hype that, Russia stuff, but I do know, like, on the other hand, I know not to ignore it completely, right? If there is stuff happening, these things tend to have a global reach. But yeah. But I figured you might have heard about it. If not, no problem.
No, I'm definitely going to look back into it. I have to get back on it for sure, find out what's going on there. I appreciate the call, Dave. Always love the call.
I enjoyed talking with you. It was always very relaxing.
I thank you. Yeah, I like doing these longer calls on this show because there's no reason not to. I mean, it's not like there's 100 people waiting to call.
Don't worry, when you start popping off, Matt, I'll barely be able to get on, just that majority.
Oh, no, I'll always, if I see your name pop up, because it's Skype, so I can see the names, If I see your name pop up, you'll always be someone I take.
But yeah, but definitely, I guess the last takeaway is, and this isn't broader from the science things, but people, I think you should demand more than, not saying go into somebody's house and demand stuff, but don't take comfort in just a sign, because at the end of the day, it's just a sign. You kind of have to get bigger horizons than the sign. But I understand the feeling. So I guess that's my view of it. That's why I am annoyed with it personally, because it's kind of like, what do you call it now? The cheap way out. Right? Not for the people liking the sign, but don't give them too much props. But all right, thanks.
Have a great night, Dave.
Same to you.
I should end the show, but I feel bad because I hung up accidentally on Renee. If Renee wants to call back in really quick, like a 2-minute, like I'm gonna have to cut you off. I just want you to call in. I don't want, because I feel bad for not letting you get in a point, but you got to be really quick. I'll read a few super chats and then that's the show. RM Brown with a super chat. Matt, come on my show, please. Didn't you reach out to me? Did I not get back to you? Honestly, I'm sorry if I didn't. I will go on every show, any show, literally, especially if it's, I would go on any show. I don't even say especially. I will go on any show. Please reach back out to me. We'll make it happen. What's up, Renee?
Okay, I'll just keep it short.
Oh, there I am saying 2 minutes. Really short, Renee. Thank you. I appreciate it.
Okay. I was going to talk about Chile and the public school system and things like that.
That sounds like something that should wait till next week.
Right. So I'll mention, why don't you entice Hydra Tim by saying like it could be an easy debate, like whether Batman should kill the Joker or not, and then you can lead that.
No, I mean, listen, he said he wants to do it. I'm gonna take.
But you could lead that. You could lead that into regarding like whether a billionaire should privatize public services like law enforcement and such.
Right.
Even in a subcontracting capacity. And yeah, whether or not like the death penalty or something like that. Just the same way that he uses like Civil War, like Marvel, as a kind of code for a race war or something like that. And you can also like contrast like a billionaire like Tony Stark versus a publicly funded via taxes experimentation like the Super Soldier program.
Right. Thanks for the call, Renee. I appreciate it. I'm not gonna, I think I could make it happen without having to convince him. I mean, he already said he would do it. I think it would look bad at this point to not do it on his point, because I'll make a big deal about it if he doesn't want to do it anymore for reasons that are just not scheduling issues, which we could push it back, whatever.
Right.
Have a great night, my man. Call in next week. We can get more into.
Ask for energy drinks, though.
Yep. Take care. I feel bad for hanging up on him, but I promised I wouldn't do a 4-hour show, and we're 3 hours and 10 minutes in. Renee with a super chat. Has Charlie Kirk suddenly discovered collectivism? Namde Net. Funny how Tracy mentions environmental reasons and forgets that late July in Tokyo is under 90 Fahrenheit with 60% to 80% humidity. over 90% Fahrenheit, I think he said. He would melt just from sitting. Omega Shenron with a super chat. I got a 6 and 2-year-old myself. My 2-year-old, if she is having a meltdown, she'll rip her mask off. NYC is too full of maskless bar hoppers. F 'em. Learned Hand with the super chat. The whole point of people like Alex Jones, Jimmy Dore, QAnon, etc., is to obfuscate dialogue about the average person's situation, despite their struggles. It's a good point, yeah. Yes, obviously. I mean, not obviously. Absolutely. We know what the issues are, right? We know what the problems are. But these guys have to make up some fake scapegoat or real scapegoat, depending on what issue there is, whether they're talking about the Rothschild lizard people or whether they're talking about immigrants, and focus the attention on that instead of the actual source of the problem, which is usually moneyed interests, billionaires, capitalism in general. Jess Garcia, Rad Show, favorite Ninja Turtle, Raphael. Raphael's always been my favorite Ninja Turtle. I like the rebellious punk rock attitude of Raphael. Always been my fave. Before I go, I asked this earlier. Don't know who's still on, so let me ask now. Who should I raid? Who's on right now? Which Twitch user should I raid? Give them some people to not a bad. I think we peaked at like 50 Twitch viewers today. There's still like 40 some odd people on the Twitch. How do I do it again? /raid, right? Raid. Who am I raiding? Tell me who am I raiding? Who's on right now? I got 3 people saying Amy EC3. All right, I guess Amy C3E it is. All right, here we go. Amy C3E is easily got. How many people is? Wait, someone said Class Time only has 12 viewers. I know who Class Time is. How many does Amy CE3 have? I'll go with whoever needs a little boost. I got so many people saying Amy. I think I gotta go with Amy, even though she's got like 63 people watching now. Oh, Class Time just doing a music stream? All right, I'll go with easily, hands down then, Amy C3E. All right, I'm about to hit the raid. Guys, always thank you for joining me tonight. Always a pleasure to have you. She's doing a fundraiser for Nina Turner? Easy. Amy CE3. Wait, am I getting it? Am I? Amy C3E. I spelled it wrong, didn't I? Amy EC3. All right, my God, I'm almost. All right. Thank you for joining me, guys. If you're watching on the live stream, please consider becoming a patron at patreon.com/MattBinder. Follow me on Twitter at Matt Binder, wherever you are on social media. I'll let you guys know about extra streams. We do the usual stream with the usual Doomed show on Thursdays. YouTube.com/MattBinder, Twitch.tv/MattBinder. Subscribe to those channels. See you all next time on Doomed.